would imagine we can do that through Suzanne. All right, so it's just 7:30 now. Heather, I see that Heather has entered. We do have a quorum, so I'm going to open up the meeting and I'm going to let everybody else in right now. There are 4 people in the waiting room. I'm going to let them all in. Just give me about 1 minute, please.
They signed in.
Hi, Brian.
Hello. Hold
So
on.
I'm just going to mute my microphone. I'm just here to listen to the meeting.
Wonderful. All right, Heather, I've unmuted you. Diab, I have unmuted you.
And I keep muting myself.
Maureen, I have unmuted you. So those are the 3 of us. There's only 1 person in the waiting room, so we can get started. I have written down everyone's name that is currently in the meeting, which is Diab Jarius, Maureen Meister, Heather Von Mering, myself, Brian Zakelli, Beth Rudolph, town engineer, Heidi DeLeo, Sally Dale, Toby Nemzer, Joyce Westner, and John Barrows. And that is all the people on the call at the moment.
So I see somebody with 5077, their phone. Who's that?
That's the engineer, the town engineer.
Our town engineer.
Our town engineer.
Okay, so one thing just, and then we'll get going, but it's because normally when we're meeting with real people, real us all together, I just feel it's useful to know who's from the town staff, who's from the proponent, who's residents of the town. And even now, I know many of these people, but I don't know all of them. So it's helpful to know who the people are. We used to, or we normally would ask for addresses for any residents as well.
We can ask for addresses if you'd like. When it is that, I mean, we have everyone's name.
Right, but in a hearing, normally we say, and identify yourself in terms of, you know, your business or.
Oh yes, yeah. So certainly, if anyone's going to talk, that we would appreciate that for all the people listening. That if you are going to talk, you can use the at the bottom of your screen. You can use to raise your hand, or somehow use the chat. You can use the chat as well to get our attention if you'd like to ask a question. Either one is fine. You can use the red hand saying raise hand, or
Thank
use
you,
the
Heidi DeLeo.
Right. So yeah, there we are. Let me see if there was anything else. Does anyone know?
Brian,
Yeah.
Brian,
Yes.
There's a chat from WinCam. No chance for doing video, Brian?
Correct. So I mean, we were not doing video, but we were going to be doing shared screens.
Okay.
So let's start that, and that's usually what we do.
I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:34 p.m. on Thursday, April 16th, 2020. I just want to confirm, can you hear me okay, Brian?
Yep, coming in loud and clear.
Everyone else can hear me. So on our agenda today, we are going to do updates. And between now and for the next 10 minutes, we're then going for the next 5 minutes then we're going to go into the approval of minutes that we have and a discussion about that. We have a hearing this evening on Lock Street, 36 Dunster Road subdivision. That is set for 7:45 p.m. After that, we have a budget discussion for fiscal year 21 at 8:15 about and town meeting articles. And then at 9:30, we have new business that was not known at the time of our posting. and 9:50, any action items we need to take care of. In terms of updates, I received an update from Lisa Wong, and the state is projecting a revenue shortfall of around 20% for this in next fiscal year. State aid could be impacted about 10 to 20%, and towns, including Winchester, are starting to prepare for the impact on the municipal budgets and the shortfall coming in from the state. So that is the latest. That was just information that was given today from Lisa Wong, the town manager. Brian, do you have updates that you would like to go through? Well, first of all, before we do that, I just want to thank everyone because we had some technical issues on Tuesday. I just really want to also appreciate everyone for bringing it, being willing and able to move your schedules to get this back on, to get us to be able to meet today. So thank you so much, everyone, for that. And I'm really sorry for any inconvenience that led to anyone who was on that call or waiting for that call or trying to that Zoom meeting or trying to figure out what's going on. We were in the similar position. So thank you so much for everyone. And I'm really sorry for any inconvenience that made for anyone that was there. Go ahead, Brian.
All right, so I was just chatting with so everyone can see that someone was trying. How do you see if you call in if you can't if you don't have audio capabilities? So it's just calling in at this number, the 929 number that I have in the chat. In case someone is trying to find that, you can use you can go to the chat and you can see that it's this 929-205-6099. Okay, updates. Let me get out of all this. Okay, so updates. Continuing to work on the Leonard Field, and I'm starting to work a little bit on the MVP grant. Been having I've had one meeting with each property in the past week for the CBD and Dennis.
Sorry, I don't understand any of this, Brian. What's Leonard Field? What's going on there?
Oh, sorry.
Leonard. Slow way down.
Sure. So Leonard Field, there is a grant opportunity to upgrade the facilities there to include composting toilets and some type of potentially like a snack bar, a small building that could be used there. It's right along the Tri-Community Greenway, and there's some grant funding, and it seemed like from DPW and several I believe Meg White and others at Lisa Wong, the town manager, thought that this would be a good idea to use this grant situation to get this grant funding in order to upgrade the facilities at Leonard Field. So that's through AARP. It's through a senior grant through AARP. So that's one thing that I'm working on.
So I guess I will interrupt. Sorry about that. But so the planning board had not heard about it. Certainly it sounds like a good thing to go after a grant, but I'm just kind of like, why did it fall in the planning board's area department?
The manager asked me.
So we should come back to that at some point. Heather, are you with me on that? Is Heather still here?
Yeah, hold on. There we go.
I was aware of it. It was coming in some of his notes on his Fridays. I didn't have a problem with it, well, but I'm happy to turn it into our talk about it as a planning board.
Yes, I don't know how you want to do that, but obviously right now in updates is not the time, but maybe at the end of the meeting, or can you put some time in at our next meeting?
We can talk about it at the end of this meeting.
And it's not necessarily I'm not opposed to the concept of what it is, but we have a lot of our own, to me, it doesn't necessarily fall in the planning department.
Yeah, we can talk about it as a board. We'll put it on as at the end of our agenda today as a continuation of updates.
All right. The other very interesting update is that the Ledges have appealed the appeal here. This truly is obviously a last shot, but they're now contending that the judge, since they can't appeal on the grounds of the case, they're appealing on the grounds that the judge has acted inappropriately, so it's no longer on the merits of the case. It was a little surprising, not completely, but it was a little surprising. But that is news that it is the project That's at 416 Cambridge Street, which was for 96 units, 25% being for deed restricted affordable. So that's still on hold because there's a final appeal to the judge. Those are all the updates that I have.
So I'm curious,
right.
what else has gone on in the past week?
I'm sorry?
Well, I'm just curious, what else has gone on during the past week? We're on Thursday evening.
Okay. So we can.
I've got a couple quick ones.
Well, let me ask Brian first, and then Diab jump in.
So this was my week this week in terms of exactly what I'm doing. If we want to get into my calendar and just put it out everywhere, so that's perfectly fine if you want to do this. I mean, I was actually thinking that the way this works is the weekly updates. You know, anything that I can't get to in the meeting, this is not really the best case to do this. But you know, I thought that's what the weekly updates were for.
Well, I didn't see anything in the last weekly updates either, so I guess you're hearing a little
Well,
frustration because I'd love
yeah.
to know what's going on during the week.
Okay, so Maureen, you're saying you're not getting the weekly updates?
Oh, I did, but the last one was mostly complaining about my calling the Attorney General's office about the lack of minutes for the past 7 months, and then about whether the planning process is working on the working with these proponents with Ian Gillespie. So those weren't really updates. So I'm just interested in knowing, not certainly minute by minute, I understand that, but a few of the major planning board type interests going on during the past week. So
Well,
I feel like I'm in the dark.
Maureen, Brian has been, I'm jumping in.
No,
Brian
I'm
been
asking
working very
Brian.
hard with Lock Street, and he will give an update at that time at 7:45 on Lock Street. He also has been working with Diab and I and council regarding the Abbey Road subdivision. That is, we were not planning to give an update on that because there's not been very, we haven't signed it yet, so there's nothing. It's still being worked out with legal. Brian's been also working with engineering on other things. If you want that update that he was going to send on Friday now, we can take the time. However, I would prefer to stay to the schedule and go through and deal with Lock Street at Lock Street. And
Well, I'm just
that, or do you want
concerned that when I saw last week's updates, I really had no sense of what had gone on during the week, and what was reported was not really an update. So I just want to say then here we are at the opening of this meeting, and I really haven't heard any updates about what went. I mean, it's a whole week. It's Monday through Thursday, including a Monday full long day. And
Okay,
this is getting ridiculous.
I'm looking at last week's weekly updates. I see that Dennis and Brian had meetings. I see that Brian worked with a bunch of people to go through the Highland Ave stuff. I mean, those are what happened. I don't know.
well, I have some other updates. Diab, do you have yours?
Sure. I just have two quick ones. First off, apparently the CVS site has been sold.
That was my update. Thank you. Diab, go ahead.
And it was sold for 3.8 million to Melanson.
Matheson? Is that it?
Melanson.
Oh, Melanson. Oh, okay.
Right. So Melanson's back in the deal.
The other that closed. That was yesterday. The other thing that's of concern for the Converse Place site is that the Concom found a pond, but the DEP says the pond is a river. So that changes something about what you have to do.
It changes part of the step back.
Yeah. So those are the two updates I've got.
Does Dennis know about that?
I do not think so.
About that?
There's no way Dennis knows about that now because the last update was that Concom deemed it a pond.
Okay.
so will Brian, you tell Dennis?
Oh, of course. The next time I think we have a meeting coming up.
Well, it might be helpful if he
beginning
knows
of next
before you
week.
meet.
Yeah, just shoot him an email, Brian, if you could.
Sure.
Thank you.
And I'm
Okay.
done.
How will we proceed with Melanson?
He's probably going to start with the manager in terms of potentially, I would imagine he's trying to do what he was trying to do before, but it's unclear. But I would imagine he would approach the manager first and say that he either wants to do a friendly 40B or not. I don't know. We did know it was going to close soon, and we found out, I guess it was yesterday, that it did close. So we were waiting for that to happen, and then Lisa and I were gonna reach back out to him. So that's what we plan on doing.
I know Lisa is incredibly busy and very, she's incredibly busy right now and just very focused on a lot of other very emergency issues going on right now in town. But Brian, can you just shoot her, just send her an email? Just say this is closed, and when
she knows that it's closed.
Okay.
And I know for a fact that she responded to the email. So.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you. Can you check the waiting room?
It's this one person named Violet, and I've asked.
It's Heather Hannon. That's her daughter's name, I believe.
Wonderful. I said to identify herself, but she did not. So let's see this. Okay, she should be coming in. There she is.
Her daughter must be using her Zoom first.
Correct. Heather Hannon, are you there?
Is that Heather?
Yeah, it just opened.
Hi, Heather. You missed updates of a couple things. The main one that we probably won't talk about again is that the CVS site, the proposed CVS that was appealed and has now officially actually been a transaction for sale has completed yesterday by Melanson. Oh my God.
Melanson.
The previous person who's working with the town on the development of that. So it has officially now closed and they now have ownership. And Brian is going to provide tomorrow a complete update of the things he's been working on this week as well.
What about the meeting on, there's one more I'm not hearing about. There it was, I believe, a meeting about the Waterfield site. That seems like something the planning board would like to know about.
There isn't a meeting yet about which meeting are you talking about? The RFP for the Waterfield site, or are you?
Correct.
That meeting is on the 21st.
Well, then there was a different meeting because I know several people attended.
It was a work meeting to develop the RFP in terms of what. But there was not a lot. There was not a lot decided. There's going to be another meeting on the 21st.
There's a preliminary meeting for the RFP.
We're getting close to issuing it. Right at the moment, all the comments got put over to the consultant to kind of the main issue that people were talking about was how to weight the scores in terms of what should be more important than others. So that was what we're going to go over at our next meeting in terms of just conglomerating all of those comments and to come up with some type of a scoring thing that we can agree on.
Brian, I think it might be useful to circulate the RFP we went through that at the Housing Partnership Board last night. So I think it might be useful if the board saw the current state of that in case they have any comments to make.
All right, I'll make a note.
Thank you.
Heather Hannon, have you been able to attend those meetings?
Oh.
It looks like Violet is not here.
She's come in as Heather Hannon.
Yeah, but she's muted.
She's muted right now.
Okay. There we go. Hello, Heather. Oh, she muted. This is. Okay.
I think when I changed my name, you muted me or something.
Gotcha. I think it automatically happens. That's why.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I missed the last one because I didn't check my my Winchester email, but I saw the newly scheduled one and I have it on my calendar.
Okay. I know that you were concerned about your availability, and I just want to make sure that you still are available. If not, I put Dieb as the backup. So if you can't, just let Dieb know. If for some reason your schedule is getting incredibly booked, which I know it is already. So just if you need to just speak up, okay?
Okay. I also asked her to use my Gmail so that I get things faster.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Let's move on to the approval of minutes. So we have meeting minutes from March 24th, 2020.
So I saw on the minutes that, first of all, the ones I got, they weren't, I guess, fully fleshed out. So the main and probably most important thing is that it didn't explain what the motions were, which is huge to my mind. Way at the bottom there, it says, thank you, Brian, for bringing this up. Master plan agenda item, and it says how motion, and then it's Meister to adopt the master plan as amended at the meeting, but it doesn't say what the amendments were. And given that this is the master plan, first time in 66 years, it seems like we would want to have a record of what those amendments said.
Okay. So I do have that exchange between you and Anna Callahan. I can, if all you're saying is to just add that exchange, essentially, then I can make that change and get final minutes.
The exchange wasn't the recording of the minutes and what happened. That was just an exchange. So as the board knows, but I'll just repeat. So I went back and actually pulled out, I didn't watch the entire meeting, but I went back and saw what Jen Goldson said, because she was the one who basically pulled together the motion on this strategy A1.1. And when we got the actual printed pages from you, the A1.1 wasn't what was approved and voted at the meeting. So that needs to be corrected in the master plan itself. But the motion should also say what was actually the motion. So the motion or what the amendments were to the master plan prior to my making this motion. So
something like this, I don't know if it's on your screen yet, but I have it highlighted as strategy A1.1 was discussed and amended as, and I put the actual amendment there.
Right.
Something like, so I'll do that for D21, and if I do the same thing, we can, that's that.
So that's good. That was, I just want to make sure it's now correct. A11 was discussed and amended as increase community planning capacity to strengthen, oh golly, to promote,
It's to strengthen the town's ability to promote desired development objectives and expand survey planning, preservation planning, and regulatory support.
Right. Okay. So that's good. Thanks for reading it, because I'm still working from paper just to double check that. You can see why this would be helpful if we'd had it ahead of time. So that's not really even, this is just a correction of the minutes, but it's not a correction of the master plan. That was what was adopted. So that's helpful to have that. Then the rest of it, that D2.1, that's, I think it was never all that clear, but Anna thought that we should discuss what we actually determined in our meeting as to whether we want this. See, I thought that the other language, amend the zoning bylaw to provide for special permit and site plan review to include recommendations by the Disability Access Commission on accessibility. I thought that would end up being its own strategy because it's not really, it has nothing to do with the modernized language. It has to do with a review that includes the Disability Access Commission. So I thought that was going to be a different strategy. I don't care, but it's not my water to carry, but it is something we have to finish. And I think the time has come to do it.
I will interpret it the way that Anna and Jennifer Goldson did. I interpreted it that
You have to watch the video. I don't think it was that clear, but I didn't watch the video. This isn't about what I mean, we can change it now, but just update this and modernized and inclusive language. That's language. The other has to do with, oh man.
Review. You're talking about review. You're talking about review authority is what you're talking. You're talking about when there's a subdivision or other type of building special permit, anything that's before us or even the ZBA, it should go to the necessary boards, and the Disability Access Commission should be one of them. Correct? That's
Yeah.
what. Right. So that's what I remember as well. Not that was going to be. Yeah.
It was, I think it was a very general, well, let's just put it in D2, diversity. But how it actually landed was in the, see, it wasn't in the, what do I want to say? Should it be called out separately? I thought it was going to go under D2 diversity, but it disappears if you have it just in the master plan here. And then it landed in the implementation plan under as a last sentence of secondary goals. So if this board is ever going to want to pick up on the idea of recommendation from the Disability Access Commission, I think it needs to be called out.
The way it was done and the way that was provided, and we can go back and we can talk about if we don't like the way, but the way it ended up and where I saw it in the final is where I expected it to be and how I expected it. If we don't like it now, we can talk about it and relocate it. But in terms of the meeting minutes, this is what I anticipated happened. We can go back and rewatch it again to confirm that that is my interpretation and that is what was actually said. But that was where I understood it to leave. That is where Anna's notes as well state it was left. Are you saying you don't want to approve the meeting minutes at this point, or you want to go? I'm confused on are you talking about the meeting minutes, or are you talking about the master plan at this point?
Well, they're integrated because there's, first of all, when I didn't put the time into this one. It took a few minutes to go track down the other one. And when I did, I found out what happened. So I can't even assert what went on at the meeting.
So just because I'm taking meeting minutes right now, and this is a very non-linear discussion we're having, so I'm finding it very hard to keep minutes of it.
No, I don't think you're right now. We're discussing what we think happened, so it's.
I know. So
nothing to say for a minute.
If we're unclear as to what happened, can we simply say that I will take it upon myself, seeing apparently I'm the clerk now, to go and look at this meeting and determine what was said, and then I will update these minutes and we can vote on them again?
No, I did these ones so far. I can finish them.
Thank you.
So you're okay with going back and reviewing what happened on the video?
Sure. And while we're there, we'll say that Suzanne Gill will also be helping out. At the moment, WinCam is burning DVDs because none of our meetings are up before March because of space issues. They only keep about 2 to 4 meetings of any board up at any one time. So we have March, which is okay, but right now they're burning DVDs. They should be done, by the beginning of next week or something. I think I was going to go pick them up on Monday or Tuesday, give some to Suzanne, give some to me, and we were going to go through them using those DVDs and writing the, what Mary Ellen has said is the requirements according to Mass General Law.
Okay, so I'm just going to note that Brian will review the meeting video and produce updated minutes, which will be reviewed by the board.
Thank you. I can volunteer just to help somebody if somebody's just scratching down a little note. Maybe it's Brian, maybe it's Dia, but to save you some time, it is around 53 minutes into the video. It's where you'll find the discussion, the final discussion of where all this lands. So anyway, that'll save you some time because I had to go hunting through the meeting, just find the discussion in the end.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, just for the boards, just to wrap up, the question about if this document is functioning, the content here, the content of what's in the master plan. There certainly was a request to have a change in the zoning bylaw for a recommendation to be required of the Disability Access Commission, and it dropped off and dropped out of this document. So if you guys don't want to include it, it's okay with me, but I thought it would be respectful of them. That's not it. That's on A11. I'm talking about in D2.
I know. No, I know. I was just searching.
Yeah, and that actually, which probably didn't even belong there any longer, but it's there. It's vestigial.
All right. Well, I will review that.
It
Yeah,
lands
we'll see
in
it.
the secondary goals, D2.1. If you can find it, we may as well. I would love to wrap this up. It's our master plan.
So, well, this is right. So this is all that's here for
there.
D2.1. That's all that's there. So you're saying,
but
yeah,
that's
right.
not
There
the
was
implementation plan. So, but let me stop there. So what you have right now is it doesn't even appear.
Correct.
So that seems too bad for the Disability Access Commission that, came into our meeting and asked for this to be included.
I kind of think that if we could add if we have a nod, just like there's this orange portion, and then underneath it, there's some black text here. If we could talk about, not necessarily what say, for example, but if we could call out the Disability Access Commission right here and just be done with it, we put the sentence there, it's done. Is that what you're?
Well, I'm thinking because it's actually two different activities or actions, which would go before the town meeting. It's really update the zoning bylaws and regulations. And there it would have to do with more, instead of modernized and inclusive language, you're really talking about just update the zoning bylaw and regulations. And I think it might be to ensure, this is what I wrote, to ensure a fair and inclusive community. And that would be the general concept. And then there are two different things. One has to do with modernized and inclusive language, and the other has to do with the review of the Disability Access Commission. So you're wanting a big concept, the D2.1, and then the two different actions go under it as subcategories. And those could go into implementation if you want, or they could go into a sentence.
Okay.
I was fine with it where it was. I was actually going to just recommend that we make that adjustment for the Disability Access Commission as part of our warrant articles and later in our meeting. To go and it's actually the way that the vote came in is that, to put the space and separate it or to create a new. We're now going back we went in a huge circle on this when we went and voted it. And it's something that I was going to recommend anyways for a warrant article for town meeting that needs to be done. But we can go and make it its own item and make it
Well, let me say this. To do the recommendation to the ZBA is a much simpler action on the part of a recommendation to town meeting or an amendment to the bylaw. Whereas what it says right here, 2.1, that's a much more expansive to go through the whole zoning bylaw. So they are separate. They're separate. They'll go before town meeting in different ways. So I think if you want two different actions, they ought to be called out as such.
Well, there are a handful of the strategies that require more than one action.
Well, right. So if that's true, then that's why I'm proposing changing the way it's worded right now. So it's D2.1, and I suggested instead that it say update the zoning bylaw and regulations to ensure a fair and inclusive community.
I'm fine with that.
But we don't need a vote on that, Maureen. That's because it doesn't change. That's just
doesn't change the Disability Access Commission, yeah. But
well, it's a broader concept. This is much as it reads right now. It's modernized and inclusive language. That means a review of the entire zoning bylaw. That's a different concept.
Heather, do you have any thoughts?
No, I was actually really confused when we talked about this at the other meeting.
And I still think it should go in a different section, but that's okay.
I just think it
We-
needs to be done, and just-
well then, we have 4 members having, it's all over the place, right?
Well, I'm
Maybe
just
that's
gonna
why we,
jump in.
yeah.
What I'm proposing for D.2.1 is something that's generalized. It has to do with access, a fair and inclusive
Inclusive
community. It's
community.
just generalized. And then when you go into implementation, it'll call out 2 different and distinctive amendments to the zoning bylaw. One of them has to do with language running through the entire zoning bylaw, and the other one has to do with this very narrow and specific, just recommendations to the permit granting authority.
However, it's actually not all the boards and commissions in the zoning are called out, but it specifically calls out design review, historical, but it
That's
does
right.
not call out disability commission. But it does say any boards and commissions who want to. So like the select board could or too. I find what's actually why it fits in here, because the inclusive language is that they are not noted, that the Disability Access Commission is not called out as a high priority. So that's why I felt it was fine. At this point, I want to get it done at this town meeting and change that and make sure that they're called out in it. But if we want to go back and change it and change D2.1, it's pretty clear that I felt it read pretty clearly to the public. If we want to go back and change the master plan, then let's go back and do it then. I am not, at this point, I don't see a need to do it, but if Deb or Heather and you guys want to vote for it, go for it, and we can make the modification.
I don't have a problem with Maureen's proposed language. And, so if we just change that top level language in D2.1 to what Maureen proposed, update zoning bylaw and regulations, ensure a fair and inclusive community, that works.
Right, and then under the 2 actions for it, one is a language throughout, to modernize the language throughout the entirety of the zoning bylaw, and the other is a specific call out to formalize the Disability Access Commission into reviewing projects.
Exactly.
And yeah, so I think that's fine.
Mhm.
I don't have a problem doing it that way.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Oh, do we need a motion? Hold on.
I didn't think we did, but Maureen said it's a substantial change, so we need to make a motion.
Yeah. Right,
Okay,
so-
Maureen, do you want to just move your language?
Yes.
I have it all written here. If you want to just say so moved, Maureen. I have everything
thank
right
you.
right
So
here,
moved.
ready to go. It's It's to change D2.1 to say update zoning bylaws regulations to ensure a fair and inclusive community. And then under those actions, it would be 2 different actions. One being to change the zoning bylaw language throughout, and the other to call out the Disability Access Commission with respect to review.
With respect to the reviews
Permit.
permit granting authorities. So move.
I will.
We can talk offline, Deb. I got it all.
No, I was going to second it.
Oh, wonderful. Even better.
Do we need to discuss it? Okay, so let's go around. Please say your name and your vote.
Maureen, aye.
Heather, aye.
Diab, aye.
Heather Von Mering, aye.
401.
Can we go back to the meeting minutes, please, now? I am assuming we can move on from that because we want you want to have the exact amendment noted in the meeting minutes? From my understanding from Mary Ellen, it's not a requirement, but it's something that we can do.
You lost me on that one, Heather. Sorry.
Do we need to? You're either looking for a motion to amend these, to amend and accept, or wait for me to go back to give you a more accurate review, or since we just changed it right now, it doesn't. Like we can just say that just a motion to adopt as amended, and now we have new ones saying that we've amended it further. So I don't know where you want me to go. I'll do whatever you want.
Well, we kind of blended two things. One was the review of the minutes, because
I know.
I said that and the other was we actually have the new minutes Dieb's been taking will reflect this further discussion and modification to D2.1. But I did want, before we finish with the minutes, it's page 2. I wanted to make just clarify
page-
something further. Can you scroll up, Brian?
Wait, page 2? Yep, sure.
Right. There we go. And it's under the Main Street, 654. There we go. So Don Clemson, it says, let's see, we'll draft a memo, and the memo would be right there to add what he was going to draft a memo about is for conditions to go with any approval. So these would be conditions for a permit approval. So let's see, we'll draft a memo for conditions to go with a planning board approval.
Who's going to give recommendations? Yes, he'll draft a memo with recommendations.
That's a memo with recommendations. Okay. I mean, to be honest, this was in an email that he said he was going to do. He was going to draft a memo to say on what parts of the original structure should be kept and reused and what aspects of the building instead will be recreated. It's obviously, I think, going to be more than that, but that is what he said he was going to do. So, and that's what I had told told you the board in the meeting.
Right, but it's recommendation. What it is it's for conditions of approval. That was the whole purpose of the memo.
All right, that's even easier. And conditions of approval. Done.
That's what I meant. That's what I'm talking about.
Yep. Okay.
And you may as well correct the spelling. Recommendation.
Yep. Okay.
Let's see. Yep. Okay.
So I'm fine with Brian reviewing the video and amending the minutes as appropriate. I don't really think we need to come in and re-review these minutes. So I'm going to move that we accept these minutes with the provision or as amended by Brian reviewing the video.
I'll second.
Brian, can you lowercase I just see it right now, is my last name has a lowercase v in it.
Sure. Anything else? Anything else? Okay.
Oh, wait, whoa. It says draft a memo with recommendations. It's not and, it's for. It's for the conditions.
Okay. Yes, correct. You're correct. 4 conditions of approval. Okay. Alrighty.
Whoa.
Okay, so all those in favor, please say your name and your vote.
Hang on. Brian, did you, maybe I don't think I've got a lag this evening, but there we go. Okay, thank you. Maureen Meister, aye.
Heather Hannon, aye.
Dieb Jarius, aye. Hey, Chair, are you going to vote?
There she is.
Okay, there we go. I couldn't unmute myself. Yeah, aye.
That little voice.
Sorry about that.
No problem. All right, 4-0. Let's move on. Are we all set then? Everyone understand how we're going to proceed with meeting minutes going forward and how they're going to be taken care of?
Well, no. So I understand we've got candidates for
So
recording
yep.
secretary.
Actually, that is one update I forgot to say. At midnight tonight, the job announcement closes, so we will be starting that process tomorrow.
Could we see the applications?
Sure.
Thank you. And what, do you have a time frame that you're looking toward for hiring?
And it's obviously as soon as possible. I mean, literally. I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly in terms of interviewing how this is. I mean, it's obviously going to be video interviewing. We do have a couple of in-town candidates.
Oh, good.
And a couple of out-of-town candidates. But I'm obviously a little gun shy, right? Because we all thought we were making the right decision last time, and that just didn't work out, unfortunately. But no, happy to have some input. So I can certainly send those around.
Thank you. Also, I guess we'll see what it looks like in the way of candidates, but we certainly could consider having 2 different recording secretaries. Will we, or you, be hiring for the secretary for the Historical Commission?
So at the moment, HR, so we've, at my recommendation and others from the planning board also said that we should probably not have a shared resource.
Right.
Based upon the last experience. So I am not, so they were under separate things. So I have not been privy to any applications for the Historical Commission. So I think they're going to Jack, but I can find out about that. But I certainly have not been getting any applications. I've only been getting applications for the planning board secretary.
Hmm.
I think Heather's still on mute.
Oh, this is on. Okay.
Thank you. I was just going to say for that, I don't need to participate. My bandwidth right now is at maximum capacity. So,
just raise your hand if you want me to unmute you then, I guess.
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, just because my kids are going to bed and they're in the next room over, so you may hear giggles and laughs and a lot of noise in the background. So
They're laughing, Heather.
Yeah, yeah. Just raise your hand. I'll unlock you. Okay.
So I keep muting myself so they're not a distraction, but but then it locks me back up and I can't
right.
every time I do it. I don't need. I am maxed out on my bandwidth right now with everything going on. So if other members of the planning board want to take the leadership on that and with securing and interviewing alongside Brian, that would be excellent right now to find a recording secretary that fits the planning board's needs.
I definitely am interested in this, so offering.
Okay.
Great.
And did anyone else, Heather or Diab, are you okay with Maureen and Brian taking the lead, or would you like to join in?
Since I seem to be taking minutes, I'm more than interested in having someone. So I will join in.
Good.
I do
Wonderful.
not need to.
All
okay.
right. So then we don't need to post it, and you guys can just take care of it and report back. And keep me posted, Brian, in case I need to sign anything.
Sure. Sounds good.
But I will trust your Maureen, Diab.
I do think, like, even tomorrow, if you could just send Jack an email and find out what's going on there. I don't want that one to get dropped by accident.
I don't think they want to either, the Historical Commission. They do not like taking their notes.
Oh, I'm sure they wouldn't want to, but it could just happen inadvertently.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just taking a note. Okay. So, should we try to move on to Lock Street / Dunster Road?
Sounds great. Let's move on to Lock Street, 36 Dunster Road subdivision.
All right. So I'll set the stage here, and then I think we'll open it up to the applicant to say what they've done over the past week, based upon the design review committee's comments, the engineer from Arlington's comments, as well as the Winchester engineer's comments.
Okay, well, let me open the hearing first because we have to reopen it, right? And
correct.
Then we'll pick back up through the process. Sound good? So yep. I am going to call the hearing open for the definitive subdivision for 36 Dunster Lane, Lock Street. To create one new lot on the border of Arlington and Washington near the corner of 36 Dunster Lane, which is a public way, and Lock Street, which is a private way. So I welcome all the public who is here. I see we actually have a handful of people on our call, and we welcome you to the hearing. You are being recorded by WinCam, if you weren't unsure, and the meeting is being recorded as well, but WinCam is sharing it out through their resources. And so just so you know, if you speak, you will be recorded. When you do speak, as asked in the earlier part of the meeting, but please do state your name, your company, if applicable, and address where you live for the record. Please always direct your questions and comments to me versus to the applicant or to the neighbors or any resident who is speaking. We will have you come if you would like to speak, unmute you, and then ask you to leave the table is really what we say, but really we'll be muting you back up again. And we're just trying to stay very relevant on what is the information that we need before us. We'll start with a update by the applicant, and then we will hear from Brian. We received a couple memos from residents since our last time we met on this. Engineering has an update as well. The town of Arlington sent a letter too, as we'll read those comments in as well. Then we will go into comments from the residents and continue back through the process like we did last time. So if the applicant would like to give an update, go ahead, Brian.
So Heather, I was actually, sorry to jump ahead, but I think it actually might be quicker if I kind of go through, because I have all these documents right here that everyone can kind of see. So I think it might be easier for me to kind of set the stage and then give it to John and Mike and Toby. So I'll just take a few minutes here, kind of say what's happened in the past week on our end.
That. Do you just want to mute them to make sure they're okay with that? I just want to stick to our process to make sure they're okay with that before.
Okay, we can
have an opportunity to respond right now.
Sure. So I've just unmuted John, and I've now just unmuted Mike and Toby. Do you guys mind if I set the stage for a minute?
That would be great.
That'd be great, Brian. Thank you.
All right,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Okay. That's a good one. Okay, so
it wasn't from us.
I know who it was. I know who it was. I know that laugh.
All right, we're gonna start with the letter from the engineer over in Arlington. So Lock Street connects to Elwern Road. That's why he refers to it as Elwern Road. The engineer has made it clear what needs to happen to allow the system to go to be connected into Arlington. The most important being this number 2 verification that the new roadway improvements and drainage system located in the town will be maintained to include street sweeping. Turns out that the town will be doing, the town of Winchester will be doing that anyway, and catch basin cleaning to adhere to MS4 requirements. The receipt of a letter indicating acceptance by the town of Winchester. So we are not accepting this at the moment. It says or of an operation and maintenance plan, which we have received, to implement some type of homeowners group that has to be recorded at the registry. So they are requiring, and the engineer in Arlington is requiring some type of private road agreement or a homeowners association of some kind to formalize the maintenance of that street. We all know that even if there isn't such a thing, that the responsibility of the maintenance of that street as well as the paving of it is for the private residences of the street. I have the engineer's memo here highlighted to what the changes, but I'm going to let her go through that when it's her turn.
Brian?
Yes.
Can you just back up? Because I couldn't find the drawings of what we were talking about.
Sure.
Can you set the stage a little farther back?
A little further back. I can do it a little further back. Sure. So this is a definitive subdivision, although it's more of a road improvement plan than a full-on definitive subdivision. It's the creation of one new lot on an unapproved private way. So what's happening is one new lot is being created, but they have to get it frontage on an approved private way. In order to do that, they have to upgrade the road. So they are upgrading the road, so they're upgrading the road in order to put one new house on the street.
Like around the corner?
Correct, down Lock Street. So 36 dumpsters at the corner, and then now it's to the rear of that down that narrow street called Lock that ends onto Elwern. So that's the basic That's the real frame. And then and then what has happened since then, I'm going to let the applicants go over this, but so they did meet with the design review committee, and they have a number of comments. You can see here, if it's up on your screen, it might take 5 or 10 seconds, but A through F of design review comments of their conditions. I would imagine that the applicant will go through that, and I'll have this document up as well so that they can say whether, what they've done or what they've agreed to. I believe that is it on my side. They did go through and provide these from the design review committee. So I have all these documents here. So if anyone wants to, on the applicant side, if you need me to put it up, you just let me know. And I think it's, I'd turn it now over to Mike, Toby, and John.
Okay. This is Toby and Mike together.
How you doing, guys?
So, yes. So, I mean, I'll just start here. The first thing we did with our to-do list when we left last week was to meet with a design review. We provided all the plans and talked about, I tried to give them some bullet points of what you all had asked for. And I know that one of the members was on the meeting last week, so she was able to hear as well. And basically, I sort of focused them on what I thought you guys wanted to know, which was they would like a visual of the side, which you just had up, Brian, just showing like how the tiers worked. They wanted to see the elevations, which we also put on that visual. Go back to that picture. Yeah. So they wanted to see like where it broke and that the wall heights were, reasonable and didn't get too tall at any point. I knew you guys were interested in talking about the which type of trees would live along the street, that they were something that was hardy and would absorb the water well. So I had made sure they had a discussion about that. They decided that red maples were the best. We talked about the width of the street and that it sounded like most people were in favor of 18 foot instead of the 20. They agreed they'd rather have the 18 foot so that we could have 5 feet of grass along the strip where the red maples were, so that the red maples would have a better chance of survival. So we changed the plans to accommodate those two things. They wanted to make sure that the wall had decorative fronts. So we showed them the design of these precast concrete block system that are already pre-engineered. So I have a little picture there on the bottom of what they would look like from the street side. We talked about that aluminum black fence along the top. I showed them pictures of the fence that is already up at the top on 36 Dunster in the back, just to show them what this one would look like. I think they were okay with that. What else? Oh, the strip in between the two tiers, they wanted to make sure that it would accommodate, plants to sort of grow over. And we talked about maybe junipers were the best option for in between the tiers. So that's what we're planning on, would be the junipers. Anything else?
Some crawlers,
yeah. They also wanted to make sure that on the plans, the big plans, the definitive plan, it looked like the driveways as they came out were like at a right angle. They will have curves, and so the new plan does have those curves. Radius curves.
Radius is at the end of the driveway.
Yeah. So let's see. Did I miss anything? Width of the street, the tiers, the scale showing the size, the shelf, so the grassy strip, the maples.
What about the curbing?
Yeah, slope
curve. Yep, they were fine with that. So I think that's my recollection of. I think we hit the points that you guys were interested in, and I hope that plan now sort of gives you a better visual. They wanted to make sure that you guys saw that side view to see what it would look like from the street. So, okay, we can ask us questions about that if you have any. So after that, we made sure that the town of Arlington got that approval letter. There was one piece that Beth Rudolph wanted updated. So we got back to him and he was able to get the new letter in time. So you guys have that. We did get an O&M manual put together that you have a copy of, and John Barrows, the engineer, can answer any questions about that. And I put together a draft of this private road maintenance agreement. So I think one thing that we definitely need to have a discussion about, all of us, is the maintenance agreement. Mike and I met with some of the neighbors again. I mean, we've walked through the lot with all of them. We walked through the house. We met with Heidi and Lynn, Scotty on Sunday, and I know we've also met with Joyce walking around. But we really went up and down the street to make sure that they were comfortable with how it's going to look and what it's going to be like. And I think they're comfortable with that. So our issue, I think, is that the neighbors are all on board for helping cleaning the catch basins. They can chime in if they're not. I mean, it's a low sort of expense for them. They understand that piece of it, and it's, you know, we can figure out agreement to share that. But I know that there was some language, I know, Beth, that you wanted in that's talked about being responsible for the underground drainage system, being responsible for, I guess,
The road
future
maintenance.
paving or whatnot. And I mean, I'm sort of with the neighbors on that. I mean, this was their existing road. They see that it's getting improved. Everybody's on board and happy about it. They're happy to help with the catch basins. But in terms of like responsibility for sort of that whole being responsible for the underground
For the future.
system, you know, they're, I guess, sort of uncomfortable with putting that language in there. And I guess I wanted to see if we could have a discussion about this. I mean, we're planning on building this, you know, very responsibly, thoroughly, having it, you know, obviously
Put a
inspected.
warranty on it,
I mean,
too.
we can warranty it. We can even, you know, maybe even put a little fund aside in case something goes awry. But I think it's difficult to ask them to sign an agreement, you know, that they're responsible for the pipes under the road, you know, and forever. So if we could maybe think about what we could do so that we had a road maintenance agreement that was for just the maintenance and not like the responsibility of the integrity of the system, where that really should fall on us. So I think that's my update. Am I missing anything, Brian?
You certainly touched on all the things that we had through the design review. I was going to let the engineer.
Yes,
go,
and then Beth, yes, needs to
you
go
know,
through the engineering.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, Beth go there. But I mean, the one thing that I want everyone to know is, regardless of whether there is a homeowners association, and regardless of whether they say that they're liable for the drainage structures on their street, they are responsible for the drainage structures on the street because it is a private way. What an HOA or some type of private road maintenance agreement does is just formalize that, so when someone buys the house, they know they know what they're buying. But regardless, the rights out to the center line and the responsibility of who paves the road and the responsibility of who maintains the drainage structures, whether there's an HOA or not, it is very clear with the law that it is the responsibility of those homeowners. It sounded like that was a question from
Yeah,
Right.
and I
you,
think,
so, yeah.
right. I think the neighbors' feeling is like, well, if there's a pothole in 3 years from now, somebody's going to make me repave that. And I keep saying, well, no, I think it's your decision whether you guys want to repave it or not.
Yeah, it's your
It's still a
decision
private
unless
way when it's all
Right.
said and done.
So
right?
maybe
Right.
if that language can get in there so it's clear to them, and we will let's let the neighbors chime in on what their concerns are about that.
Right, and I think I can see we will have a public portion. I see that there is. I think after the engineer shares her report, we will open it up. I do see from 14 Laka with your hand up, and we will definitely have a public participation. Sorry, we will open the public portion of the meeting after the engineer speaks. So I'm unless anyone else on the planning board has something to say at the moment, I was going to turn it over to Beth.
I was just going to point out, just to reiterate, that Arlington requested that. That's
Required. They didn't request it.
Yes, they required it.
Right.
So
Yeah. So that's another.
it makes it very difficult on Winchester to waive it when Arlington is requiring it.
And well,
Yes.
they're not saying exactly what has to happen. They just has to say that all they're saying that it has to include adherence to MS4 requirements, and then we actually have some other things that I'll let the engineer get into. But yes, so they're recording it.
No, that's new information that has just recently come in. So I just
Correct.
wanted to make sure everyone knew that. Okay, let's go on to Beth.
All right. I'll
Or
unmute Beth.
anyone from whoever is representing engineering this evening.
Yep, Beth is here.
Hi.
Hi, Beth.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep, Beth Rudolph, head of engineering.
Okay. Yep, Beth Rudolph, town engineer. Brian, I don't know, do you want to pull up my comment letter?
Yeah, I just highlighted all the things that were not, everything has been addressed other than the things I've highlighted here.
Yeah, so the applicant provided an updated set of plans and drainage calculations. I reviewed it and Brian reviewed it. We just had some minimal comments, which I think can easily be addressed. I haven't seen a response, but I don't think most of these things are too big. If you want to scroll down to the very last page, Brian. So I think this is probably the bigger section, right? So as Brian said, Lock Street is a private way and will remain a private way even after the road is reconstructed. So on any private ways, the homeowners are responsible, and by homeowners, I mean the property abutters are responsible for maintenance of the roadway. And that means repaving of the street. It means curbing. They're also responsible for maintenance of any drainage system. So it's not just maintenance of a catch basin, it's maintenance of any piping system that's under the ground. So that's the case for any private way in the town of Winchester. And so my comment on this private roadway maintenance agreement, the document was really talks just about the maintenance of the catch basins. And I wanted it to be clear to the people, I think the people who live there understand that this is a private way, but anybody who is purchasing it, either one of the new homes constructed or the property in the future, that they are not only just responsible for maintenance of those catch basins, but also maintenance of that pavement structure, of that drainage system. The town owns just only the water and sewer infrastructure on private ways. So as Brian said, whether there's a maintenance agreement in place or not, those responsibilities don't change. It's just helpful to have a maintenance agreement in place so that people who purchase properties in the future understand what their obligations are. And so that in some cases, a homeowners association may be interested in collecting dues annually so that when they get to the point where they have to do any sort of improvements, it's not a huge capital cost. So going back to Wayne's request, Wayne is the town engineer in Arlington. His concern is specifically with respect to maintenance of the catch basins. I did talk to our DPW director and he agreed that he would include sweeping Lock Street as part of our overall street sweeping plan. So I think that's not an issue necessarily, but the maintenance of the catch basins is something that Arlington was specifically concerned about, because that new drainage system that's being built on Lock Street ties directly into the drainage system in Arlington. It doesn't tie into the Winchester system. So I think the question is whether this document has to be sort of an all-encompassing HOA road drainage maintenance agreement, or if it's just an agreement with respect to those the maintenance of the drainage system as required by Arlington.
Right.
Beth, you were waiting on hearing back from the DPW regarding the curbing.
Yeah, so the applicant agreed to do a sloped granite curbing with a 6-inch reveal, which was acceptable to DPW.
Okay. And Brian, could you bring back Beth's recommendations back up real quick? I'm making a list of up a little bit.
Isn't it 9, 10, and 11? Or are you talking about something
No,
else?
there's something highlighted above that she's asking for a condition on.
Sure.
A condition that test pits at the location of the infiltration system. The test pits. She wants condition for test pits.
Yeah, those
Right.
New property.
When the new house is being built.
Right. It says new home being conducted prior to construction.
Yeah. And then your 414 update is all taken care of, or are you asking to connect those two pipes?
Yeah, what about this one?
So I haven't heard back from the applicant on that.
Is that what you would like?
Either way is fine. I think I just questioned whether they needed that additional manhole in the middle. It would be a little bit cheaper for them if they didn't put that additional manhole, but there may be a reason that they've added it that I'm not aware of. So it's not a big issue either way. But
If you can unmute John Barrows, the engineer.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the reason for that interim manhole there is basically because of the way the road slopes. It's kind of a low point almost in a kind of a curve. So I've put that extra manhole in so that I can meet the cover requirements. If we had to take that one out, the manhole upstream would get pretty deep, and I'm concerned that when we start getting down that deep, we might get into some ledge, and it'd probably be more work to do that rather than kind of follow the grade of the road with that drop manhole.
okay, that makes total sense.
That makes sense.
Yep, and that's fine.
And while I have you too, there was one comment. The latest plans you have addresses the comments from the Arlington city engineer about the catch basins. We've changed that on the latest plan, so those comments on his comment letter should be addressed.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then can you scroll down a little bit more, Brian?
No, I don't think there was anything else up here.
Oh, the other way.
Yeah, it was just here.
All right, so I have the inspection parts of my notes. Roadway sweeping is fine. Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, it looks
And
like.
I think I think some of the details about the infiltration system on the lot that's being developed, some of that can be worked out as we go through the building permit phase as well. The subdivision process is to create the lot, not necessarily to approve everything specific to the construction on that lot. So some of this detail about the inspection ports and that type of stuff on the lot that's being created, we can work with them during the building permit phase.
Right.
We are out of that though discussion. So if you want the subdivision to be tied to a requirement of
Shouldn't be.
the test pits at the location of the infiltration system of the new lot as a condition of the subdivision, then we need to do it now. Otherwise, depending on this is outside of our.
No, I agree with the condition with respect to the test pit. It's just number 9 here that I was looking at about the inspection port that doesn't necessarily have to be a condition, because like I said, we can do that as part of the building permit as well.
Okay, but most likely it's I'm just gonna assume that it's gonna be as right by right building. So that would come through to you through the building department, and that would be not coming through as under the subdivision then if it's not tied to the subdivision as a condition.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome to add it in. I was just saying it's not that big of an issue that I feel like we can resolve it at the building permit if you don't want to incorporate it into your decision.
Okay.
It's totally up to the board.
Heather, when planning board member has their hand up, I didn't know if we were doing planning board going around the board or if we were opening it up to public comment yet.
If Maureen have questions of the engineer, then yep.
Yeah, thank you. I'm wondering, I think we're about at the point where I'm hoping we're going to send something over to our town council for review on the homeowners association. And I do believe it should be in every way complying with our zoning, with our subdivision regs.
Art has seen the proposal.
And his comment?
It's really dependent upon the owners and all the
Right.
property owners.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, an HO, a vote would, something would occur that we would not have a finalized HOA. It would be something like contingent upon an executed HOA, just like the town of Arlington is saying here of a requirement. Just that an HOA of some kind be recorded at the registry of the deeds prior to the release from subdivision. That would be the only thing that would be needed right now if there was going to be a vote, and then we can work on that, as time goes on, as part of the release of the subdivision, just like we're doing with others. So it's not like that HOA needs to be done now. It would be a contingent vote based upon the recording of an executed HOA at the registry.
So would we, I understand what you're saying. That makes sense. Would we, generally, I would be confident that Art would be looking out for, I won't even call it us. It's just the collective interest of what the purpose was in the subdivision regs. So that sounds fine. But should we look at it before it's down the road when this happens?
Oh, definitely. This is not a goodbye. This is let's start the process.
Got it.
Yep.
And
yep.
I guess I will repeat again. I thought that both you and Beth did present it well, but I do think outside of our hearing, it would be appropriate for you to explain to the abutters what this does. It ultimately, I will say this, as I live on a private road that was built in the 1870s, never had any of this infrastructure, meaning legal set up, that what happens today in modern times is far better than the situation we're in, where we're basically without the legal support that we really could benefit from.
Totally agree. I think everyone's all on board. We're also saying the Arlington saying we have to do it. We all want there to be some type of an agreement. In terms of what that final agreement looks like, nobody knows yet, but I think the vote would be, like I said, to, before the release of any lot, that an HOA is recorded at the registry, and we can have another crack at this, but at least we can start the approval clock and we can start moving.
Right.
Also to add to that, Brian, which you didn't include in your comments, is that you did have a Zoom meeting with
I did, and I would imagine that some of those owners would want to speak this evening. And there's also another owner that is not on Lock Street, but also has their hand up as well. But I think we were going to start with the Lock Street, folks. I think now is appropriate.
So can we just get can you turn off all the microphones and turn them all on? And please let us know. We're going to make a list of who would like to speak.
I think it might. I think it's easy enough for people to use their hands, but if not, so I see. I know Heidi DeLeo had her hand up, but it is now down, and I see that Sally and Dennis Dale have their hand up as well. There are no other hands up right now, but I will unmute everybody right now, and we'll see what happens.
All right. So can you please just tell me your name if you'd like to speak?
Hi, this is Dennis Dale at 147 Cambridge Street.
Okay. All right. Would you like to speak on this topic?
Yes.
Okay. Can you just give me 1 second? Heidi, you had your hand raised for a while. Did you want to speak on this?
Not yet.
Okay. If you do, please raise your hand. Did anyone else want to speak? All right, so we can go back. We'll mute everyone, and if you want to unmute Sally and Dennis, Dennis at 147 Cambridge Street.
All right, hold on a second.
Dennis, will you provide your last name?
Street.
Sorry, you're now we see it. So it's you said Dennis Dale at 147 Cambridge Street. Take it away.
Okay. Yeah, just I believe that a fire lane requirement is 20 feet wide. So I was just wondering whether this is going to be an insurance issue if the road is only 18 feet wide. And the other point is coming off a Dunster, there's a catch basin on the left-hand side it might be useful to have 2 vertical granite curbs on either side with a radius to, at least at the entrance of the road off of Dunster. There is a granite curb across the street, and it might start to give a regular edge to the street instead of using the sloped granite curb, which doesn't last as well, at least on radiuses. So that's my only comment.
Thank you, Dennis. Beth, did you want to respond to that?
I would leave it up to the applicant to make the response. They'd have to look at the plan exactly to see the area that Mr. Dale's talking about.
Brian, could you pull up the plan?
Sorry here.
I'm going to ask you, okay, so Dennis, can you please direct Brian to where you're referring to?
Brian, I think it would be easier if you looked at the proposed plan, not the existing, so we can see where they're
Sure.
proposing the curbing in this area.
Yeah, it's a little messy.
Yeah, I think if you zoom in on the top one.
Yeah. How's that? Right on the corner, talking about the corner of Dunster and Locke.
So there's a
Correct.
catch basin, there's the existing catch basin on the upper left side. Is that the basin
this
you're talking about?
You're talking about this one here or this
Oh,
one
so
here?
yeah, sorry, there. Yep.
That one there.
Yep.
Yeah, if that was, and actually there's a granite, that right there is a granite curb that's been kind of sunken or paved over partially, but the backside of that curb should have a granite backing to it of that catch basin, just to catch that water before it goes down the street. There's a couple of cobblestones thing. I'm looking at it on Google Maps, the aerial view, street view. You can see that. So if the radius on either side and on the opposite side of the street where the D is, there's actually a granite curb on the plan. So there is some precedent to have some kind of granite curb, at least on the radius. Then the rest of it would be great to be sloped granite curb.
I guess the question is for the applicant whether they're willing to extend a piece of vertical granite curbing behind that existing catch basin.
I can unmute John. There you go, John.
Well, I guess it's up to Mike, but
Yeah.
that shouldn't be a problem to put a inlet, piece of granite right there. We're doing it on all the other catch basins, just so everyone knows.
Do you,
I think that would
Toby
be
and
fine.
Mike, did you have
I mean,
I have to go take a peek at it, see what he's talking about, but it is already sloped. Like all the water from Dunster comes down Dunster and heads to that catch basin, and there's like a natural berm on the street that's stopping water from going down Locke Street. So that water's heading to the catch basin now, down the hill, naturally. I'll take a look at it tomorrow.
Yeah,
I
I
guess.
mean-
But if it needs it,
if it needs it, we'll
I
do
mean-
it,
I mean, it's not the end of the world to do something
Yeah.
like maybe put some type of berm there and make it flow better.
Yeah.
I think they're just talking about putting a piece of sloped granite, or excuse me, a vertical granite curb with a curb inlet on the back side of that basin, because it looks like your curbing stops short of that basin.
Right.
Sure, we'll just add that in. That's
Yeah.
fine.
No, not a big deal.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
So
Okay.
Dennis, does that fully address your comment?
Yes, and just the other question was just that we've always talked about having 20-foot wide roadways for fire access, and I'm just concerned about whether the insurance would be an insurance issue if the road doesn't have a 20-foot width.
It's only 10 feet now.
Yeah, I think it's where practical. I mean, it's certainly it's considered a fire lane at 20 feet, so therefore this is not considered a fire lane. But if you're wondering if we should be looking at any legal ramifications of that, I don't know if that would be part of the decision, but for the board to decide.
We've gone on many discussions about 20-foot wide and 18 feet wide, and looked into all the ramifications of that. This is we're doing improvements on a pre-existing condition. We're not building a brand new road. We're working with an existing one. But I understand your concerns if we've gone in circles around it. But well, when the board talks, we'll talk about it. But we're working with a pre-existing condition of a road that currently is like 10 feet and pushing it to 18. And then we're going to getting closer to the property lines. And some of the abutters have been, don't want to lose their green space. And some of the green space is also absorbing some of that water. So if we extend that out to 20 feet, we're going to have more hardscape and less absorption in a really high water area.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about it at the time. If it means anything at this time, I would say to keep it at the 18 where we're at. But again, this is now public time, and a member on Lock Street has had their hand up for some
Heidi,
time. So
Heidi, you are open to speak. We're going to take you off mute if you can't do it yourself. All
Yep.
right, you are. Thank you, Heidi.
Yeah. So, 18 feet is great because yes, we're at 10, and ambulances, etc., have been able to get up and down the street with no problem over the years, and we haven't had any issues as far as I know with my insurance company. I have had no issues. My concern is with the catch basin that's at the top of the street on Dunster at the corner of Lock, that I don't know.
the same one we were talking about.
Yeah, the one you were talking about. I haven't examined that myself, and I'm no structural engineer, but there is an overflow from that basin down onto Lock Street still. So to have a berm out there would be really ideal to help prevent anything from going down to Lock, and then whatever does come down to Lock will be absorbed by the other catch basins that will be put in. Like, I think it needs to be fixed, or something is not correct with that
Well, we're
particular.
doing the road over again anyway, so
Yeah.
we'll
That grade will have to be adjusted.
Yeah.
Thank you. Heidi, did you have any other comments?
I think a lot of them have been answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thanks, Heidi.
All right, I think that closes our public comment period. We can go into board discussion. Brian, can you please make sure that Dia is unmuted?
People can unmute themselves now.
Okay.
So anyone, you should be able to unmute yourself if you would like to. I changed that function because it was getting annoying. Plus, I trust everybody here, so it's okay.
If you don't want me to kick it off, I'll kick it off. I'm pretty comfortable with where things are. What I am actually unclear on is I have a long list, and I want to make sure that things that are not noted on the plans are noted as conditions. So I wanted to go through the list and look at the plan, and we may need Beth to confirm where it is to quickly go through it, since we're doing it remotely on a computer screen. So the radius for the curved driveways in that plan, there's discussion of that. I just want to go back through and make sure that the drawings that you are looking at right now include that radius curved driveway. I'm pretty sure I saw it.
They're there.
They're there.
They're there.
They're there. That the trees are labeled as red maples.
They are.
Maybe not on that plan,
Oh.
on that landscape plan.
Can you bring up
Right.
the plans,
It's not-
Brian? I'll
not
read
in the
them for you to write. I have them written down, and I'll give you the list.
Okay.
So the curved, do we have the radius curved driveway as wanted? Beth, is that correctly drawn?
Yeah, there's
With
curb
the curve-
radius is there at the new driveway. I'm not sure, at the driveway, the existing driveway at the top left, that, I don't know if the intention was to add curb radiuses there as well on the top above Brian, yeah. Like where it says 11, like the 11-foot mark. Nope.
I'm
Where
not.
the 78 contour is. That driveway opening there. I don't know if you were putting.
You're talking about this driveway.
No,
Correct.
yeah, well,
I'm
design
talking
review wanted radius curved driveways, so it's easier to get in and out of those driveways. So looking at it, we don't have the radius curbs at,
I'm talking about this one.
Yeah, that's just an opening. His driveway's on Dunster.
You're talking about this driveway.
I'm talking about the existing house on the corner. I think it's the Westner's house.
The Westner's.
on
The Westner's
corner
house.
Of Dunster and Locke, right? So that driveway, yep.
Well, that's just
There's
an
like
opening there. His driveway is on Dunster.
Okay, but is that there's no driveway? Because it looks like
Well,
we're
it's just
the
like an
handling
opening
right now.
for, he gets his tractor and machinery through there, but they don't use that as a driveway.
but it could be used later on.
Oh, well, all right, so we'll put curb. I mean,
Well, radius in
all
anything.
every driveway opening, we'll put a radius curved in.
Okay, and then is Heidi's also curved?
Well, you can say all driveway openings will have a
Yeah.
radius curve.
Okay, and then I wanted to make sure, and so what, just for the planning board, what I'm going through is I'm making sure that the things, if they're not drawn in, if we want to use these as conditions to the vote, we can use them. So.
Okay.
That is where I'm going with this. And then if you have items too, or questions or removal or whatever, please, we can go through that. But I just made notes of everything that came through and wanted to go through. So then there was discussion on the red maples.
Well,
If they're drawn in or if they're not, they're
Well,
labeled.
they're on the landscape plan.
they're on the land. They have the full landscape plan with it.
Okay. And that's in the full drawing set that you currently have that the vote's going to.
Sorry, say again.
The plan set that you currently have open right now that we are reviewing for this vote has that on it.
The far right.
It doesn't call
I want
out.
to make sure that your set that you have matches what the most
does not.
the most current.
So if it doesn't, then we would say based upon this plan set plus these other conditions.
Yes.
So you're saying the red maple's labeled? Is that
That the trees provided as drawn would be red maple. The roadway's I saw it, and when it came through, it was 18 feet, and we discussed that. The junipers on the planted shelf between the piers, I don't think those are labeled.
They're not.
No.
Say that one again,
The
Heather.
junipers on the planted shelf,
Okay.
that junipers be planted on the shelf. That came in from design review. And that grass area, I believe it's scalable, so it's 5 feet. That the curbing is noted as slope 6-inch granite curbing.
That's on the plan.
That's already on the plan.
Yeah, we saw the image of the precast concrete block.
Yep.
We saw pictures of it. I'm not sure if that is what's marked. So either we say the precast, the block wall be precast concrete as presented.
It's right here. This is part of the plan set now.
Yes, that gets tied into it. They were talking about the black fence, aluminum black fence along the top to match the abutter.
Right. I think is that on the plans, Mike?
Just a black fence, but I just want to make sure it's
That's in
really
that-
crystal clear.
On that page.
Yeah, that our expectation is very crystal clear laid out.
Okay.
I'm going to interrupt. Who owns the wall, the retaining wall with the concrete block, and who owns the black fence?
The owners of
It
the abutters.
Yeah.
It should be placed on private property.
Fine, okay,
Yeah, it's not shown in the right of way on the plan.
thank you.
Let's see. Then the new one is the curb inlet at Dunster.
Is that on, is that on the
Yeah.
plan? Yeah.
No, that is
No,
not.
'cause that's
the
what we,
new thing
that's
that
what we just talked about.
discussed.
Oh,
The curb inlet at Dunster behind the catch basin.
right. What?
I would just say be addressed to the satisfaction of the town engineer.
Okay.
I think in the conditions, you also need to make sure you vote the waivers that they've requested.
Okay.
We can go through that as well.
All right, and then the other one is, and we can discuss this as a planning board, is a private road agreement to address in perpetuity the maintenance of the street be filed with the registry.
Prior to the release of any lots.
Yeah.
So we haven't really called it. It could be called an HOA or some type of private road.
Private. I would call it private road agreement.
Private road agreement to be.
Well, it really is. It's in the subdivision regs, isn't it? Called a homeowner. Beth, do you know?
I think it says a homeowner's agreement.
Right.
Yes.
We can call it a homeowner's
Yeah,
agreement.
so
We can just say for the we can.
I agree. I think that the concern here is that this is a different situation where there's already 3 or 4 existing homes, where it's not a subdivision where we're creating, like, for example, Abbey Road, where we're creating 5 new lots, right? And all those people bought their properties subject to this agreement. So in this case, I think we have to just be a little bit flexible because, you know, they're only creating 1 lot and there's already existing property owners who are kind of are signing on to this agreement. So I'm not sure that homeowners association has to be the title of the agreement. I think we have to have a little bit of flexibility just given the situation we have.
Well, Beth, I'll jump in. That's a legal question. That's really sorry, but it's a legal question.
Yeah, I just don't know that I agree. It's a totally legal question. I don't know that the board can legally bind existing property owners to sign on to a homeowners association.
So that's why I think it's time we need to talk to council. My own experience on a private road is that it's in the interest of everyone to have the agreement in place. This is a you've got pipe what do you call it, drainage systems going in there, and this is something that it's going under the road. Did I understand that?
But they all have to vote?
They all have to sign it. Whether we call it the homeowners agreement or an agreement to be filed at the registry prior to the release of lots to address in perpetuity the maintenance of the street, that's really what we're talking about. So I'm fine changing it to homeowners agreement. They can title it whatever it want, but it's really an agreement between them to deal with
We just need to make sure that it's maintenance of the roadway and the drainage system.
Yeah.
Right. So can I suggest we simply call this, as Heather just said, an agreement, and then just let council come up with whatever the official name is? I think we all agree that we need this. So it's just a question of language. We don't know what the language, so we'll just say an agreement.
Well, we better proceed to bring in counsel before the release of the lot so we understand what we're doing.
Of course. I have also already, Beth and I have talked to legal counsel about this in terms of options. And, you know, there's some equity issues. Obviously, it's pretty easy. You could just throw all of the cost onto the 2 new owners, which would obviously be legal, but would be totally unfair.
Last chance, if for some, it's an option. There's options out there for them.
But but the point is that has less to do with the vote of any of this, and it has to do with the execution of that agreement. What both engineers and the regulations say. I'm sorry. What both engineers and the regulations say is that there has to be some type of agreement filed at the registry. So we're just following the regs.
I
think I want to be very clear about what the Arlington engineer is concerned about. His concern is specifically about maintenance of the drainage system. So, right. So from the Arlington side, that's all their concern is, that there has to be some sort of O&M plan on file at the registry to make sure that those catch basins are being maintained and that there's not sediment being discharged into the Arlington drainage system. The whole other issue is that this is a private way, has always been a private way, and that the road repairs of the roadway and ownership of the drainage system are the responsibility of the abutters. That doesn't change regardless of whether or not there's a homeowners association or not. I agree with Maureen that it's in everybody's best interest to have a homeowners association, but I'm just not sure legally how we proceed here, given that we're just creating one lot on a street that already has, 3 or 4 existing lots abutting it. So it's kind of a tricky situation.
Well, at this point, can we we can acknowledge that the town of Arlington wants something. They won't approve this without some sort of filed document. So
which we will provide.
So we're going to, at some point, there will be such a document. So we know it's going to happen regardless of whether it's equitable or not. We don't care, at least in terms of getting this vote through tonight. So we know there will be a document in the future. We make the release of the subdivision contingent on the existence of that document, and we have months to figure out.
Correct.
We have months to figure out. So I say I like the wording that Brian has on the screen right now, and I think we can just move on.
I think Maureen's right, is that it needs to be run by town council just to give it the stamp of approval as well.
I completely agree.
So the agreement to be filed at the registry prior to any release of the lots.
Can I just jump in?
Go ahead.
For 1 second. I just want to clarify the scope, right? So in a typical homeowners association, like we did for Abbey Road, that document incorporates both the maintenance of the drainage system plus the maintenance of the roadway. In this case, the only requirement from the town of Arlington is with respect to maintenance of the catch basin. So I think we need to be clear about whether the board is okay with the scope of that document just pertaining to the cleaning of those catch basins, or whether the board is pushing for a document that also opens up the requirement for maintenance of the roadway as well.
Well, I'll jump in and say good for Arlington for setting some expectations here, or asserting certain requirements. And I think, what about the town of Winchester, whom we represent? It's in the interest of the town and long-term interest of the abutters to maintain the road as a private way. Again, I trust or hope that it's been explained to the neighbors that Winchester, in a town bylaw, has the authority to go in and force them to rebuild a road. So it's when it's not passable, the town can do that, and has done that. They did it on Myopia Hill. So it's in everybody's interest now to pull this together, but it's really the town's interest, not just the abutters, the town's interest, not to end up where they're forced to go in, as they did with Myopia Hill, and compel everyone through the threat of putting liens on their properties to pay for the rebuilding of a road that was no longer passable.
So
I wanted to.
The language as Brian has written it includes maintenance of the road. So
yeah, I think it's good.
Are you not seeing Brian's?
No, I like it.
Sure. I'm just asking Beth, since she raised the point. The language there provides it. Is there something lacking in the language that Brian has there, Beth?
No, I just want to make sure everybody understands that the scope of what Arlington is asking is not that, right?
Yes,
Arlington is just asking for maintenance of the catch basin. So if the board is going, and I'm not saying that it's fully within your purview, it's just I want to make sure that everybody understands that Arlington's not asking for an agreement that talks about maintenance of the road. They're talking for an agreement that talks about O&M of those catch basins.
Yeah, no.
So I just want to be clear what their expectations are.
I think the board, well, I won't speak for the board, but I like the language as Brian has written.
So do I.
If the board's okay, I agree. I think it's great too. If the board's acceptable, Joyce Westner is raising her hand. Are you okay if she interjects?
Sure.
Joyce, if you want to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. So just to play the villain here, I want to remind everybody this is a different situation for the Westners because unlike Maureen's road, we have no interest whatsoever in how that road and how that homeowners association proceeds. We are not going to benefit from it, except in that we are liable, as we have been for all the years we lived here. And so I just want to make the point that it isn't going to be easy to get an agreement that is it's not going to be simple. That's all. So it could take a lot. And I also want to say I really appreciate what Beth said, because she is really speaking, I think, for what the practical matter at hand is the catch basin and the drainage. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Thoughts, planning board members? I think that's just more information. I feel that is information for the developer to recognize her concerns, and that's part of the negotiations and discussions about that agreement.
Right. I mean, we're in a spot where if, the neighbors are saying, well, I'm not going to sign it. I mean, you can't force them to sign something. They've all said to us that they're happy to chip in for cleaning the catch basins. So I don't know what spot we'll be left in if this is the sort of, we have to get them to sign something that says they're responsible for.
It's just not fair to put it on the two new homes.
Not at all. Not at all. And I hope, yeah.
I want to be clear that regardless of whether there's an agreement in place, by virtue of the fact that it's a private road, the abutters are responsible for maintenance of the roadway.
Right.
The question is whether there should be a formal agreement at this point and some sort of homeowners association created.
Looks like Heidi has her hand up again at 14 lock.
Yeah,
I'm not
Heather,
sure.
In 1 second, Heather Hannon, can you please? You're welcome to speak.
Oh, I was just saying that's putting an agreement in place is supposed to make it easier for people.
Right.
All right. Is the planning board all right if I open it back up to Heidi?
Sure.
Yeah, but can we aim for a time certain to whatever we're doing?
Yeah, Heidi, can you?
Yep, unmuted her.
And I think we're almost there. Those are pretty much on my list, but go ahead, Heidi.
So my issue is that when you purchase a home on a private way, you're responsible for the portion of the road that abuts your property, no matter what type of agreement you have. Is that correct?
You have rights to the center line, but usually costs are shared throughout all of the shared road owners.
Okay, so if there is one that doesn't want to participate in the cost of maintaining the road, then what do the rest of the abutters do?
Well, I'll jump in. Can I jump in?
Please go ahead.
What happened on Myopia Hill is they actually went to the town, and then the town went through this very time-consuming process, which puts a real burden on the staff. But then the town then went through the whole process, and they actually paid. The town rebuilt many of the roads on Myopia Hill, and they had the right to, the town had the right, and basically it was a threat to put a lien on any properties that didn't kick in. And so everybody kicked in. They were given bills and they paid for the rebuilding of the Myopia Hill road.
Maureen, it should be noted that if the town does that and goes in to actually do the work, it will cost you more money because the town has to pay prevailing wages, and it has to do everything through a bidding process potentially.
Right.
So if you don't do it, basically, if you try to avoid and say that this is not in my best interest, whoever eventually does get it, they might be spending, I don't know how much more, 30% more, 40. I have no clue. It's good. There's no doubt it's going to be more.
It's true, because we know
So
that.
if I could just step in and say that you're right. The extreme case is that it goes to a betterment, right? Which is the town steps in and does the work. The typical situation, and this happens all over town. I know, Maureen, you guys have a pretty more standard kind of payment structure, I think, where people chip in. But Mayflower Road, for example, paved their street maybe 7 years ago. There are always people who don't want to participate. And unfortunately, it's harder because you have a smaller street, but in those other cases, everybody else just kind of chipped in to offset the cost of what
Well, I'll
those
jump
people
in
don't
and say
deserve.
they don't, and that's really frustrating. And so we're in a position where we have an organization, but it's really just a volunteer. It's like a glorified club to maintain the road. And then the members, who are the officers, go around begging people or reminding them that they haven't paid. And some of them will say, I'm never going to pay. So you really do want this. And your road is very short, and you're going to be getting a brand new road. You've got a lot of
for free.
Yeah.
Right, but that's what I'm
It's gonna
saying.
last
Like,
for 30, 40 years, this road,
Right, but there's a butters to the road who obviously don't want to participate, and then there are also a butters to the road that haven't been included in any of these conversations as well.
Going back, I'm going to go back just to the planning board now. Planning board, those were my thoughts of what need to be put in as conditions. We have in our subdivision, any comments, thoughts, additions, subtractions to that list?
Motion?
We can't make a motion yet. The only thing I wanted to make sure of is that we had all of the waivers they were asking for, and that we addressed those. Obviously the one we know for sure is the 18 feet. But hold on.
If you go to my memo, Brian, they're all listed there with a recommendation.
Easy enough then.
Can we just include, in your original list, Brian, you simply had engineering memo dated 4/14.
Correct. Yeah, if that had them all in there, and we can go over just what they are very quickly to make sure that you agree with them. But
yeah, I think the board has to explicitly vote those waivers. You can't just take it on my recommendation.
Correct. So here it is. So the engineering department has no concerns with this one request having to do with the GIS data. Is that correct? And then the stormwater management report, we did not agree, but then they did provide those. So they're actually not asking for this waiver number 2. And then here's that update saying that they've been provided those. Number 3 has no concerns with this request given the existing grades. This has to do with meeting the grade. And then the other one was the sidewalks. So out of the 4 waivers that have been requested, all could be granted except for number 2, which was rectified.
Okay, so we need to add those into the conditions. So 1 is a vertical datum. Is it datum or datum? I think it's datum.
Do you say tomato or tomato?
I think it depends on what
potato.
Right. I always question, is it Minnesota accent or is it or is it that so then number 2, well, we still need that. We still need
still need that, but then the horizontal and vertical design standards. So that has to do with the grade. Okay. And 4 with sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is listing all of the waivers that, with regard to the plan set. This has now everything that is still not on the plans, but has been requested by design review, engineering, or planning. And I really think this is everything.
All right, I'm gonna move to end the public input and go into the board deliberates and votes. In response to the comments regarding the agreement, and did anyone have any thoughts or comments they want to share before we move into?
My only comment is that since the town of Arlington will only accept this if there is an agreement, there's granted their agreement is only for the catch basin cleaning, but there will be an agreement. So the neighbors will have to come to some agreement regardless. And I really do think that road maintenance should be part of it. I think it's in the best interest of the town and the neighbors. And that's about all I want to say.
Affirmative vote of the majority of the board is required to approve an application. 3 members of the board present constitutes the majority. We currently have 4 members present. Did anyone want to make a motion? The options are approve the project with or without conditions, deny the project with or without prejudice, and 3, accept with or without prejudice. The applicant's offered to withdraw, which we don't have currently. So those are the motions.
Well, I believe we're making a motion to approve the subdivision with the conditions as listed by the town planner,
Second.
or as above.
Would it be approve the definitive subdivision at 36 Dunster Lane?
Mhm.
Thank you.
You know, I don't mean to come in at this late period. I know that we've had this problem with the Abbey Road where we had a tripartite agreement with an escrow to make sure that the work was completed, and we did that late in the game. Do we have any concerns about that here?
We haven't, where we wouldn't do that at this time because typically it's not usually decided at the time of the definitive of the application of whether they're going to put up a bond or not put up a bond or do a tri-party. That's further down the line. This is the last, this is the subdivision. This would be a subdivision approval, but there is still a little bit of work as this goes through and gets.
Okay, so it's a premature thing. Thanks.
Correct.
My question is, does the vote need to tie to all the drawings and everything and note the drawing dated and everything?
Yeah, right. So typically what I've done with all of these, I'm the one who actually writes these decisions. So the decision will obviously incorporate all of this, but it's going to list all of the documents that they've provided. It's going to be a full document the way we normally do it. So it's going to show, everything.
So would it be 36 Dunster Lock Street as presented on 4/16/2020 with the conditions listed above? So that you can use all of the plans, all of the presentation.
And the plans are dated no, they are dated, here it is. The plans are dated.
I go to the right.
January 24th, but they usually have some type of an update.
Yeah,
but,
off to the right.
No.
I think if you look in my memo, Brian, it probably put the revision date in it.
There's a revision block on there if you look.
At the very top of my memo, I usually say revised through April 9th.
And revise April 9th. There it is.
Okay.
Just one note that the streetscape we saw with the trees and the fence was obviously later than April 9th, right?
Yeah, that's why I included as presented today. So that document also gets tied to it.
Right.
Okay.
As presented on 4/16 with plans dated 24th and updated 9th.
Okay. Just
Yep.
just when we say plans, obviously we only mean I just got confused because we're specifying dates on some plans, but not others. So
Not on that picture.
yeah.
That was part of the packet with the plan, though. Is correct? Or did not come in? When you received those,
It came in.
it came in with those plans.
Yes,
So
it did.
go with that
Yep.
set.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Any discussion? Did someone make the motion?
Oh, I think I did.
It was,
Okay.
yeah, it was, so,
I asked for changes to it.
yeah, so,
The discussion.
right.
So what do we need now? What kind of, do we need another motion? What do
She
we
had
need?
a motion on the table and I asked for changes to it.
And you, yeah,
Well, I'll accept the changes.
right. So then Meister just made the motion to do it as seen on my screen here, right here.
Yep.
Okay. So do we have a second for the motion to approve the definitive subdivision at 36 Dunster Lock Street at presentation as presented on 4/16/2020 with plans dated 1/24/2020 and updated 4/9/2020 with the conditions listed above?
Yes.
Heather Hannon seconds it. All those in favor?
Maureen Meister, aye.
Aye.
That was Heather Hannon, correct?
Diab Jarius, aye.
Heather Von Mering, aye. And so it's the vote is 401. It passes with Krager absent.
So what actually starts this clock is me filing this decision. I should be able to file this decision by close of business on Monday.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you all the time.
I know. Thank you.
Are you guys all set with me, or do you need me for anything else on the agenda?
I didn't think so, but I don't know if the board had anything in mind, but I didn't think there were other items.
Anyone? Oops, that was my doorbell. If you heard that, someone's at my door.
So it's two items that are left: the 21 budget and town meeting articles, which do not involve the engineering department, in my opinion.
No, just is there anything coming up, Beth, for town meeting articles
For
on
me?
your part that the planning board should be aware of or know about? What about this?
I think just the MBTA, the easement. They have a land acquisition plan that they've submitted to the town for the temporary and permanent easements associated with the MBTA construction.
Brian, could you distribute the most current plans to the planning board of that and of the MBTA station?
So there's really nothing for me to distribute at this point, and I'm speaking for Brian.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so the MBTA has sort of scrapped their previous design that we reviewed, the 90% plans for the outbound side. They've gotten rid of the ramp at Shore Road, and they're now building a ramp in the Arizona lot, and they've shifted the platform down to the south a little bit. They're also now building an elevator behind Thompson Street, which I can't wait to see the plans for, because I just can't even see how they have the space.
Well, yeah, they always said they. Well, they always said for years they couldn't, right? For years they could never.
Yeah,
do it,
right. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
So they've asked me. I think I had shared, and Heather, you might have been on a couple emails. I had shared some information regarding kind of what they had proposed, more related to the ramp at the Aboriginal lot, for the working group subcommittee. And they've asked me to hold off on having any further communication back to them until they're updating the 90% plans at this point, I think. So I don't think there's really anything to share at this point until we get any updated plans from them. But I'm happy to share that with the working group subcommittee, of which you and Brian are members, and then you can share that with the board as well if you'd like.
Okay. Well, that's a great update. Thank you. I'm on that.
Sure.
I was unaware of I knew we were moving the ramps and stuff, but I'm not that far into it. So thank you, Beth, for that update. Is there anything other items regarding town meeting?
Nothing I can think of off the top of my head.
Is the select board going forward with the sewer?
Water and Sewer
Right.
Enterprise
Yep.
Fund?
So just to kind of update everybody on where that stands. So that take kind of a big picture view. The town of Winchester is in a different position than most communities are. We have an existing water and sewer enterprise fund that also pays for drainage projects. So in other communities where they're creating a stormwater utility, they currently have no other funding mechanism for drainage projects, whereas we have this existing water and sewer enterprise fund that also funds drainage projects, and we have a ruling from the DOR or somebody from 20 years ago that allows us to do that. So for several years, the board was considering, under the umbrella of the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, creating a separate stormwater fee, and they looked at various ways to do that. That was brought forward in one iteration to town meeting last fall, and it was, I can't remember if it was voted down or if it was indefinitely postponed, but either way, it didn't move forward. So this year we've taken, this year meeting starting after the holidays, we've kind of taken another look at things, and the added to the issues was that the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund was going to be at a significant deficit starting in FY21, because the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund is very reliant upon, really only reliant currently upon the water and sewer usage in the town, right? So in a year when we have a very wet summer, that usage decreases significantly, and the revenue that fund generates also decreases. So the board decided to look, instead of generating money through a stormwater utility, they decided to do what a lot of other communities do, which is to implement a higher service fee. So you currently have a service fee, a quarterly service fee on your water and sewer bill. It's like $5. So I think they've made the decision to raise that quarterly service charge to, I want to say it's $30 a quarter. And then in addition to that, they're looking at a 12% rate increase. So that is what will be going forward to town meeting. And at this point, there's no plan to move forward with an independent stormwater fee.
Okay, and Beth, will you keep us up to date on the work that we have to do in response to the requirements coming out of the state for water and sewer? And it's not like there are things in there that once the budgeting and the things, there's some stuff in there that the planning board had to take on.
For the MS4 permit?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like 2 years away.
Yeah, but can you make sure you keep that on your radar so when it doesn't, you come to us when you need us to do something versus us be like, oh, we do this.
It's not a heavy lift. So, but yeah.
Yeah.
When the time comes. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, I think you can go, Beth, and have a great evening.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so fiscal year 21 budget is what was next on our agenda. We haven't, I don't even know how to continue with this, given that my daughter's into that the town manager is saying that the state funding's coming in low at 20%. However, I'm not, we need to make some decisions. So FinCom, as they left it, is been playing around with our professional services amount. And we had money in there for professional services for our day-to-day work that we do. We put a lot of that off to take on the master plan the last year. And then we also had professional services to start doing studies. Specifically, our high focus has been North Main. That's what we keep talking about. They're looking to deplete that, our professional services and or the study of North Main. However, we could come in to town meeting with a article asking for funding separate outside of our operating budget for North Main. Does anyone have any thoughts on how to proceed with that? If you're interested in doing an article to town meeting, at least doing a placeholder, and as we see how the budget shakes out, decide if we want to continue with North Main or not.
Right. So I'm just going to talk. I know that question was open to the board. I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit for a second, because really there's two things going on that are getting kind of cut from our budget. One, that the manager was going to be doing a $100,000 master plan implementation standalone article. She was going to try to do it through the budget. That didn't work. So now we have to decide two things. One is whether we want to do some type of $100,000 implementation, master plan implementation article. And the second thing was exactly what Heather was just talking about, is what we would be doing for a standalone North Main. So obviously the North Main is part of the master plan. There's no doubt that that has been called out. So it's possible that, that could be the project. But those are the question: what to do with this $100,000 potential article, and what to do with a $25,000 North Main Street study. So those are the two things we need to talk about tonight.
I thought there was also the planner position.
The planner position did get funded through the FinCom for a full-time. So that was the trade-off. FinCom basically said, we will give you a full-time planner.
Oh.
But we're going to take away the $100,000 implementation thing out of the manager's budget, because that was related to the planning board, and the other was that the professional services was going to get lower, specifically from that North Main Street study. So that's why we're talking about, since they're getting kicked out of the budget, we have to decide whether we want to say, okay, maybe this isn't the year for us, or whether or not we're going to sponsor an article for those two things. One is 100,000, another's 25.
Can I ask one more question? Does FinCom completely zeroed out professional services, or do we still get the 35K we've historically gotten?
Last time I heard they zeroed us out.
So that's a significant hit.
Well, and that's why I had this. I had this update from Lisa up on here, and this is where this is coming from. The state is now projecting revenue shortfalls of around 20% for this and next fiscal year. State aid could be impacted 10 to 20%, and towns, including Winchester's, are preparing for that impact on municipal budgets. So that's where this is coming from. It's not a gutting of the planning board, although it does.
Oh no, I'm just
yeah.
It's just a question of, we know that we need consulting services during our normal course of action. So I think that in addition to whether we ask for 100K or North Main Street, we have to include in that, do we ask for 35K for paying Dennis Carlone or someone else in our normal course of work? Correct. So we have three things we need to worry about.
Well, it's unclear. I mean, so Heather, you're sure that they zeroed out? I thought that they just took out the extra project and was just to be the 30.
The last vote that they had that they met on, they gutted our budget, and they voted on it.
You mean they voted on professional services of 0, just to confirm?
Yep.
Okay.
But John Miller, who's our representative, well, not ours, but FinCom's representative to us, has promised them that he would return after he got more information from Brian and from the town manager. But as of right now, as the vote stands, they gutted our budget.
I have a question about the 100,000 for the master plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What would that cover? I don't remember talking about that.
Well, yeah, it wasn't going to be like something that was necessarily ours. It was more of Lisa came to us. This was Lisa's idea, and we were very excited about it. She was going to put it in her budget.
No, I remember that part.
Yeah.
What does 100,000 get us?
Oh, in terms of the nature of the project has not been determined. It has not been determined yet. Not at all.
Because that might help. I wouldn't feel comfortable asking for a number if I didn't understand what we would get out of it, like what the deliverables would be, or if it's a consultant or.
Right, and that's obviously why the situation we're in, it makes it much harder, because she was just going to put it in her budget, and we were going to deal with figuring out exactly how to implement at the, when the time comes to implement next year and use that money. Whereas now we've kind of lost that opportunity because it's out of the budget, and now we have to make a case
Yeah,
in
that's
front
what
of
I mean.
town meeting. Yes, no, it's a different situation, and it is not ideal at all.
Well, and maybe given, all municipalities losing money right now, maybe 100,000 isn't the right number anymore. That's why I was curious what we would get for 100, and maybe 50 makes more sense right now.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that the planning board has been very consistent about is putting money towards a study specifically on North Main. So that's one thing. The other thing was the other study that was potentially going to be looked at is scenario planning for the light industrial area. So those are the two main things in terms of planning attention that we were focusing on outside of the center business district. So that's where the money would go, I would imagine. But I mean, we're open. There's lots of things that we could do.
Well, the other is the master plan implementation team. So where I kind of was thinking is let go of the 100,000 right now, focus on North Main, and then also like the small fruit, like we can ask to get the accessibility Disability Access Commission, do that warrant article, look at the trees we can do through staff. Sorry. And focus on the low-hanging fruit in the next year and North Main, get the implementation committee up and running, and then have them prepare a budget for the next fiscal year to then go to town meeting.
I think that's a great plan.
Heather, I hate to ask you to repeat that, but I'm going to ask you to repeat that, please.
Okay. Sorry, I'm eating dinner too.
Which Heather?
No, yeah, which Heather?
The one who just spoke.
Because Heather, yeah, both of them spoke.
Heather Von Meering.
Somebody came up with this idea. And
Heather Von Meering.
Okay. So my thought is to let go of the 100,000 right now.
Okay.
Get funding for North Main, because we know that's what we want to go. We want to take off and just go with it. We know it's needed. It's a high priority. And we actually, even when we went for the stopgap in North Main, there were a handful of town meeting members who said, okay, I'm going to do this, but I expect you guys to come back to North Main and address this as soon as the master plan's done when we have more information.
Okay.
So I think we owe it to town meeting to take on North Main. But instead of going for the 100,000, we focus on North Main, and we focus on getting the implementation committee up and running, get them all set, and let them come in with the next fiscal year budget of the things that that they see getting done in the next year, and the money needed to get those things done. Versus us just coming in with a blank number this year, and with everything else going on, it's too much. I think we need to focus on what we really need, what is really important for the planning department and the planning board to keep operating in this situation with where we're at, and just go and try to explain to FinCom the best we can why we need to have, funding for professional services outside of the board and Brian and assistant town planner, why we need a second planner in town. And I think Lisa has been communicating with FinCom pretty clearly, explaining why she believes that another planner is really critical. FinCom has asked her if it's a priority. She has said it is a priority for her because she needs support in economic development. She needs support with traffic and long-term planning of the traffic. She needs having more planning staff and support means more of a collaborative effort to achieve a lot of the goals that we have and they have too, and that need to be taken care of through the master plan. So she felt more staff was the most critical thing at this point to get a lot of the stuff, start moving things through that need to be done versus money.
Okay, so I got all that.
Wait, hang on. The 30,000 consultant money, I thought that's a general for all, it's small projects and out.
Yes, that's our operating general. We need it on a regular. We need to have it available to us.
Yeah, I don't know if that does that separate from where it's at right now. I'm seeing on the screen North Main Street 30,000, but
it should be 25, Brian, right?
20,
we have 65.
25.
Oh wait, where's 1 and 2, Brian?
1 and 2 were this one little this change, special permit should be site plan. This is what got submitted. And although this is number 2 is not the planning board, that's just, I just submitted it. So it's all in one document.
Ignore me,
And-
Brian. I'm looking at notes, not at your.
No worries. Sorry. So yeah. So sorry, Heather. It looks like so 25,000 for the North Main Street. Maureen, you want to make sure what's happening with the 30K that we normally get, or 35K that we normally get in professional.
Correct.
We're trying to
Sure.
explain to
We don't know. Yeah, we don't know at the moment.
explain to FinCom why it's so critical. If we get
Yeah, of all the, I mean, even before we had the town planner, we've had for years, well, it wasn't the first, not when I came on, but within a few years, we did get money to work on just hiring outside consultants for very discrete zoning changes.
So then I suggest one other thing then as a placeholder, because if our budget gets cut, if that professional actually does go down to 0, we should have then in here something related, I don't know, but something related to professional services, right?
Right.
Yeah,
So,
we
the
really can't function as a town without, we can't function to support the town without that professional services.
but the problem is that so this would be like a standalone, like on-call legal and design and economic, it's crazy, right? Because it's like an article for, it's really 10,000 here, 10,000 there, 10,000 there, right? It's not a $30,000 project. The idea is the money is used usually for 1 to 3 projects a year that we need it for.
Well, maybe that's a dialogue. It's never over till it's over. But I would say it's one more go round. I don't know who's going back to finance committee, but that small piece, if I understood Heather Von Meering correctly, that professional services just for outside consultants, that's like our functioning money.
Right. So what should we call this?
Oh, I don't see that as a town meeting separate
we could
warrant article. It would be an amendment to the budget.
Then you're saying we're to go for an amendment to the budget if they cut it.
Okay, I like that idea better. I would and fight for it in the budget. Don't fight for it as a standalone article. I think Maureen.
I understood.
I think Maureen's right there.
What about the North Main?
I think we should go to town meeting for it.
I think if they cut it, it falls and classifies in our operating budget, the North Main, because it falls under our professional services.
They could cut it.
But if they cut it, we can go to town meeting. Town meeting is the one who really said you need to do this. And so did the master plan as well. And if town meeting says we just don't have the funding, you need to wait, at least then town meeting is taking the leadership and saying we're going to put North Main on hold and continue to hold it because we just don't have the funding. And they make that decision versus us saying, well, we didn't think you were going to fund it.
Yeah, my only concern is which comes up first before town meeting. If we have to move to amend the budget, I'd prefer we do that before we ask for North Main.
Typically the budget's after, it's towards the end.
Yeah, see, maybe we can get them to move it, just because if town meeting decides that we're under such fiscal constraints, they can only give us one thing. We really want those professional services.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like we still have to wait a little bit from FinCom to find out what's happening, but the question is whether or not we should just put 2 placeholders in and we can figure it out as the time goes
Placeholder, and we
by.
can delete it before the books are printed. We can
Right, so we have, I'll craft for our next, something related to North Main for 25. That does seem like short money, but I think if we could somehow, I think there's a lot of work that's already been done in that area through the master plan that it would take whoever's going to be we would have to bid this out, by the way, or it'd have to be an RFP because it's over 10,000. So we would have to.
It's 35,000 because it's 30,000, not 25, because 65,000, 35,000 is our regular ask for professional services.
Yeah.
And then it's 65 we asked for, so it's actually
right.
30,000.
It is 30. I thought it was. Okay, so yeah. So where does that leave us then?
And Brian and I did the math of what 30,000 looks like in terms. It's not going to get us to the resolution, but it's going to get us started in moving in a good momentum to deal with the North Main with information and.
Yeah, I think in one of our earlier discussions, we talked about 2 parts to this study. One was facts on the ground, and the other one was design standards based on that. So the 30K might get us that first chunk.
FinCom is really looking, they really want to hear that it has to do with
Economics.
economic development.
Well, that one does.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think everyone's very much on board for this North Main at 30K. It looks like, and which, by the way, we would have to vote these in to put them as a placeholder on the warrant because we've now, the timeline started over. So that in terms of votes, that's what it would look like. It would be to add these two articles onto the, as placeholders onto the warrant. We can go from there.
I thought we were putting,
Yep. Sorry?
oh, I thought you were putting professional services just in case we had to talk about this before the budget, like as a placeholder.
Well, no, I'm saying, so we in order to, since town meeting has been extended, we have another kind of bite at the apple to put in new articles, and these would be these two articles. One would be this North Main Street because it's got taken out of our budget.
No, I
Does that
thought
make-
Diab was saying if we talked about this before the budget, we would want to talk about professional services first and put it in as an article. Is that not right?
I thought somebody had the brilliant idea of amending the budget to put in the professional services.
Right.
So I don't think we need, that would be just a motion on the floor, correct?
Right. The reason why is because we couldn't say that this is exactly what we're going to be using this money for, because the way the profession, yeah.
In terms of the mechanics of getting it in front of town meeting, that would be, we would stand up and move to make an amendment.
Correct.
So we wouldn't need to put in a separate warrant article.
Correct. Diab is right. Heather, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I just thought he was saying that if the order didn't go like that, that we would want to put it in as an article to make sure we got it instead of North Main Street, like if they were only going to pick one.
Right. So, yes.
Well, we could ask the town moderator to move it until after the budget.
Yep.
We can work with those mechanics.
That's a good point, Diab. We can ask Peter if he'll be willing to move that to after the budget.
Because we are trying to save the town money.
Yeah.
I think.
Does anybody else have any? I still don't think. I know Concom still wants to meet with us. They're still meeting remotely on every second and fourth Tuesday of every month, and they still want to meet with us maybe as early as at the end of this month about this tree preservation bylaw. But just to let you guys know, we're not doing that for this town meeting. I was just more of a.
I would love
to meet with them.
I know what they're trying to do is a really much more complicated. I don't get why we couldn't just put a one-liner in our site plan and special permit review to also address and do it now, do that, and then go into the bigger issue of clearing and whatever.
Well,
why we couldn't do a part of the site plan and special permit is that no trees,
it's Maureen. It's almost 10 o'clock. I think that's a conversation for a meeting.
Yeah. Well, the point I was trying to say that if anyone was going to bring it up, then don't bring it up because we're not going to get there tonight or without the Conservation Commission.
Well, can I make a suggestion?
Please.
Can I suggest that we schedule a meeting with the Concom?
So we can. That is one thing, Maureen. Before anyone leaves, I do wanted to talk about schedule for a minute, and we can talk about that at the end. But yeah, we can schedule that. They're saying they're meeting every second and fourth Tuesday, so we can easily figure that out. So we can. That'll be for the end of our conversation.
And then it's Maureen again. I do think we want to. I believe Heather Von Meering had made a commitment to spend the better part of an evening with Dennis and
that's on the 12th
in Gillespie, right?
That's May 12th. That agenda's kind of already been set.
Yep.
It's a big one.
Pretty much already
because it's the last one. It's really a last pre-app.
And then I guess we're going to hold a hearing.
Only if they apply. Oh, yes. Then whenever they apply, we're going to wait until after the executive order is over and we can meet in person.
Right. No, understood. No, I mean a hearing on zoning.
Correct. You are definitely, yeah, no, we would usually be doing it about 3 weeks ago, but yeah, we definitely need to have a hearing quickly for zoning. That's for sure.
So
as
that's
well.
why where I'm heading with this is I think the Conservation Commission meeting is after, it's sometime late May or June, after town meeting.
Right, so town meeting is June 8th.
Okay, I'm a little confused. What is this hearing about zoning?
We have to do a zoning hearing because because we are changing this to see if the town will
okay.
vote to amend. The other thing that we will have to, as Maureen brought up a very good point about the zoning hearing, is that there is a citizens petition that we will have to react to as well as part of our hearing. We have to hold a hearing not just for our own, but also for the citizens petition related to the Center Business District.
And it's Maureen, we did have a request that we give it some time to discuss it rather than just coming out in the middle of our hearing with a vote on it.
Oh, yeah, I don't think we would come, depending on the timing, I don't know if we would come out with votes right at the end of that hearing, because typically we don't have a lot moving on this one. It's really the citizens petition that if we were going to make any changes, we would have to digest that and then come back at a meeting after the hearing.
Exactly. Oh, after the hearing.
Well, you have the hearing, and then that's where you have the comment from public, and then you make changes based upon those comments.
Well, yeah. Although I guess I've been through. I don't know how many have come forward from citizens since you've been with the town, but it's not. I've certainly seen many citizens petitions over the years, and the planning board gives them full thought and support if it seems desirable. So I think that it's it's something to at least, I mean, we really ought to give it some standalone time.
100% agreed. No, without question.
I agree that we should give it time. Just so you're clear, Maureen, as of right now, I would like to hear from the residents in the hearing before I make a position on where I stand on it. If you're looking to, that's just where I feel right now, is that there hasn't been enough public input for me to really get a feel for what residents are really looking for that change. And so I would rather make a vote on my part for that as a part of the planning board until after we have that hearing. However, I really do agree that we need to do some research and some legwork leading up to that hearing to have a better understanding of the long-term ramifications of that, if it does go or if it doesn't. So let's get to the scheduling, because that's really what we really need to do before we end tonight. And when is town meeting again?
Town meeting is June 8th.
So 3 weeks from there is the May 18th. Our next meeting is not till May 12th.
Town meeting is town meeting is June 8th right here.
Yeah, so 3 weeks from that though brings you to May 18th for a hearing. And it doesn't give us enough time because the 12th is booked. There's nothing else we can get on the 12th right now.
No, the 12th.
May 19th, we have a meeting scheduled.
Yeah. But
I wanted to meet prior about the articles before a hearing.
What if instead we met the 5th and the 12th instead of the 19th and the 12th?
And then have the hearing on the 18th?
Or have the hearing on the 5th.
Why?
Oh, actually, no. Yeah. Why not have the hearing on the 5th?
Because we don't have any information. We haven't done any. I would like to discuss it as the board before it goes to the hearing.
Before the hearing, okay.
Then have the hearing and then vote about it thereafter before town meeting.
Then what I would suggest is that if we could potentially have a meeting, somewhere here.
Can you go back to
somewhere either next week or the week, the week of the 27th, the week of April 27th.
Can you go down into May?
Yeah.
Are you looking at, do you guys want to have the hearing inside of a planning board meeting or outside of a planning board meeting?
I think we can have it inside.
Yeah, I don't know why
Agree.
we usually do. It's just usually it's the regular scheduled meeting and we just throw it on there. And we've actually in the past we've only done it at a part of a meeting. We've done it for like an hour and then we had other business.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a lot of, there's only one, the only one that I think will require a lot of discussion is the citizens petition.
Yes.
Correct.
A 1 hour hearing might be sufficient.
It might be. I'm just trying to figure out how to make that happen. So the 12th is completely booked. So we can't get anything else in the 12th
Correct.
unless we
Agreed.
want to go on past 10. And that's
No,
not
just
doable.
no. It's done. The 12th is done. It'll be a good meeting that's designated for the CBD.
But I would like to meet before the hearing, which would, right now, I would just schedule the hearing on the 19th, but we can't meet before the 19th. So is there a time where
I'm thinking April 28th.
Well, Heather, meeting before the hearing, is it required we meet on a previous day, or can we meet just, right before the hearing?
Well, if we want Brian or any staff to do any research or gather any information, we need to do it
Okay.
prior to
I
give
agree.
adequate time.
You're right, Heather.
What is your availability?
The
to
20. Yeah.
Planning
Do the
board.
28th.
I'll be around.
I mean, I'm not going anywhere.
Oh yeah, I'm going to Tahiti, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. Right.
I'll be in Hawaii.
I am available. I have to say it's David's and our anniversary, but and we were
Well,
planning to have a nice.
We don't have to do it on a Tuesday.
We could do it on we could do it on the 29th. Now it doesn't matter. The nights don't matter to me at all now. So
The 29th.
They're all one long night.
yeah, we could do the 29th.
Yeah, the
That would be
29th.
better.
The 29th.
Why don't we just do the 29th? Why don't? Oh no, wait. Take it back. We can't do the 29th. It's impossible. We need 2 weeks in the paper.
That's not
already-
the hearing. That's just a discussion. The hearing
Oh,
would
that's.
be on
Oh
the
no.
19th.
Yeah. Sorry.
So,
So
special
yeah, we're-
I cannot actually do the 29th, believe it or not. I have another meeting that night.
how about Thursday the 30th then? 2 weeks from today.
That works for me. And that works for me.
Yeah.
Thursdays. In a pandemic, everyone free.
Well, actually, I have a conference that's was canceled. It's remote.
At
Yeah,
night.
It's West Coast time, so I don't even know the time anymore.
Oh geez.
Is Monday the 27th? Even though the select board, we're on a different.
So now I have a paid account that I'm going to be getting reimbursed for, so we're not going to have any of these issues anymore.
The 27th is fine.
That would be ideal.
Why don't we
That's
just do that then? That's easy.
Heather Hannon, you haven't said anything.
Oh yeah, I was supposed to be traveling both those weeks, but now I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Also, typically, not that it matters too much, but we seem to be everything takes longer on these meetings.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone is not happy about that. I think we should move our meetings to start at 7. There's no reason we should start at 7:30 in my opinion. But what do you guys think?
That's pretty hard for me.
Okay, that's easy enough. If it's too hard for people's schedules, that's fine. I'm just trying to get out before. I mean, we've been finishing generally at 10:45 now, the past 2 or 3 times.
So my goal on the 27th, just so the board knows, is really just to deal with and have a short meeting to deal with to talk about the proposed article and just that as of
So
right now.
then-
Unless there may be a need for an NRA and an approval required NAR. I'm getting
ANR.
NAR, which we may need to address on the 27th. But that's pretty quick and
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense. I think if we can do it, we'll do 7:30 on the 27th. Can I get what do we think?
Sounds good.
fine.
All right, I will book it and
But I'm
I'll
gonna
have
keep it light. I'm gonna keep it a really light agenda because the 12th is gonna be very heavy. 19th is gonna be the hearing. So schedule the hearing on the 19th.
Yeah.
And do we want legal on the 27th or just on the 19th?
I don't know why we would need them, but that's not to say that they're not helpful, but I'm not seeing a clear legal issue.
I didn't
don't
either. I
either.
just want to make sure before. So we need to book legal also for the 19th for the hearing to be available.
I'm,
If there's any questions from the residents?
I guess.
It's always in the best interest of the residents to have town council present for their technical legal questions if they have any.
All right, I'll make. Okay.
And yeah.
Hold on a second. Let me just make availability.
We'll also do some meeting minutes approvals on the 27th. We'll do meeting minutes. We'll do the citizens petition, and if there's any, the approval not required coming in, that someone had met, Brian had met with someone who said.
Yeah, I know they're going to be. They're going to be coming in, and basically, if we can actually look at the plan and approve it, I think we should, because there's no reason to stop a sale at this point. If there's a sale moving forward and we can meet remotely, I think we should. It's the one that's coming in is a movement of a lot line over like a few feet. It's not even a creation of a new lot, so I just don't see it as a problem.
Okay, so that's kind of where we're at. Everyone feel good about that?
Sounds good.
All right. Any other business you guys want to take up?
Too late.
All right. So I think I have everything that I need. I'm going to be getting some DVDs at the beginning of next week, and we're going to be starting going through those minutes. I'm going to draft this motion.
Oh, Brian.
Yes.
To be clear, too, you are going through the ones that are currently available online.
So, yeah, only right now. So right now, Suzanne Gill is starting with it's only the 10th, the 17th, and the 24th. She's starting with one of them. I'm doing the 24th, and then I'm going to start with the other one after that. And then we're going to divvy up the rest as time goes on.
Sounds good. And
I think that might be it. Like I said, I'm going to draft this decision and then file it on Monday. I can send it to the board, but technically, we don't have to have the board sign off on it. It is what it is, but I'll send it out to everyone. And if there's anything that's wrong, let me know. Otherwise, I'll file it, Monday, close of business. So I'll probably send that out. I'll send that out to the board before the end of Monday, and then I'll give you like a day or two to look at it, and I'll try to file it to get it filed. And
then also on your to-dos is also to reach out to Jennifer Goldson to get that section modified.
Yes, that's already. Well, I've actually already reached out to her, but yeah.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
That's
Need a motion.
That's a lot.
Need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
10:12.
Motion to adjourn by Maureen Meister. I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye, Maureen.
Aye, this is the.
Aye, Heather.
Aye, the other Heather Von Mering. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for your patience on all this, and let's adjourn. Good night.
Wonderful. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.